Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto saves Minato and Kushina. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by RASENSHUR1 Can, link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Rules of Time Travel. Felix knew he had to move fast. When Naruto turned time back to the day he was born, Felix was still in the same place he had transported them, meaning he had to use the same technique to get to Konohagakure and fast. He wanted to show up at the delivery area right then and there and kill Madara Obito, but there were constraints that involved the time-traveling thing that kept him from going up against anyone or anything that the person who had turned this world's time back had fought with. This meant that whether he liked it or not, he had to let the enemy extract Kurama from Kushina. He also would be unable to seal Kurama into Naruto because Naruto had fought said Biju, and said Biju would not remember until he was part of Naruto again. However, he could still save Minato and Kushina. He would just need a little help from a certain old man, though he knew Naruto would not like the end result. Step away from the Jinchuriki, Yondaime, or else your son's first minute will be his last, Obito demanded, holding the newborn Naruto in a threatening manner. Where the hell is Felix? Naruto thought furiously as Minato tried to ask the masked man to calm down. He was supposed to do something about this. Speak for yourself, Yondaime, Obito said, tossing Naruto up and drawing a kunai. I am quite calm. He declared as he proceeded to stab Naruto in midair, only for Minato to flash by and rescue him from being skewered. Your name as the yellow flash of Konoha is well deserved, but what about my contingency? It was then Minato realized that the masked man had put exploding tags on Naruto's bundle. He cursed as he tore it free and flashed away from the explosion. They found themselves in a clearing with a small wood fragment embedded in Minato's leg. As he thanked his lucky stars, Naruto was alright. As he prepared to go try to save Kushina, Naruto thought angrily, you better not let that bastard kill my mother Felix. Hiruzen Sarutobi got a surprise when the green-haired man showed up out of nowhere and knocked out his Anbu guards before they even knew he was there. Who are you? He asked as he prepared for a fight. A friend, the man responded, dashing forward and grabbing the old man's head before he could react and started forcing memories into his mind. Sorry about this will cause a bit of a headache, but it is quicker than just trying to explain, and time is of the essence. Sarutobi could only groan in reply as the memories of things that had yet to pass rushed through his mind. Naruto was somewhat relieved when Minato showed up with Kushina, but upon realizing that she no longer had Kurama inside of her he was pissed off. What the hell is that jerk Felix doing? He thought as Minato prepared to defend the village. A recovered Hiruzen was demanding answers as to what was going on and what the deal with those memories that never happened was. So let me get this straight, he sighed as he tried to gather his thoughts. Minato's and Kushina's son turned time back to this point after the future went to hell and I was dead before then. That's the thick of it, yes. Felix responded. And you had better help reduce the casualties of the Kyuubi's attack right about now. I know that it is a difficult thing to ask for you to trust me, especially considering what I am asking of you, but there is little time to persuade you, so I can only give you my word that this is the best shot we have at rewriting the future. What do you say? Sarutobi thought for a few seconds as he prepared his battle gear to fight the Kyuubi. It was a far-fetched story to be sure, but it did seem that this Felix was on the up and up. He also knew that there was not much time to make a decision. So he decided to throw the dice. Alright then. I will trust you and do my part. Good. Now get going and don't get yourself killed yet. I will come get you when it is time for your part in this. Are you Uchiha Madara? Minato asked as the masked man lowered his hood. But he is supposed to be dead, so you can't be him. I wonder about that, the masked man mused, preparing his chains. Not that it's important whether you are Madara or not. But why do you want to use the Kyuubi to attack Konoha? Well, I guess you could say that it is both a whim and a plan for both war and peace. Well, whoever you are and whatever your goals, I will not let you destroy the Leaf Village. They dashed at each other and the ensuing battle was somewhat short, ending when Minato used a Rasengan on the masked man's back, followed by stabbing him with a kunai and using a contract seal to remove the Kyuubi from his control. As Madara backed off and teleported away, he declared, I am impressed that you have managed to wound me and delay my plans. It is no wonder that you are the Yondaime. But know this, the world will be mine someday. I have plenty of backup plans and many means at my disposal. Once he was gone, Minato could not shake the ominous feeling that the masked man was not lying. As Hiruzen was preparing the shinobi under his command for another attempt to drive the Kyuubi further out of the village, Minato showed up and used the Hiraishin to teleport the beast away before it could launch one of its Biju bombs. Just like before, if those memories are really true, he mused. So that means that Felix character was telling the truth. His thoughts were interrupted by the Bijou bomb explosion in the distance, and Felix showed up. "It's time to get going," he said gravely as Hiruzen nodded. "Who are you?" one of the nearby Anbu demanded, causing Felix to mutter something about that question getting rather old. "Stand down, I have reason to believe that he is an ally of ours," Hiruzen commanded. The Anbu complied, albeit reluctantly. "Let's go." And with that, they dashed off in the direction of the Kyuubi's location. Upon reaching the barrier Minato set up, Felix quickly cut through it with his blade, earning astounded stares from the accompanying shinobi. "Hurry," he said to Hiruzen as they dashed to the place where sealing would take place, Felix leading the way. Naruto could only watch in horror as he watched his father prepare the Reaper Death Seal. Before Minato could cast a final hand sign however, Naruto's hopes were restored as a familiar green-haired man dashed up to Minato from behind and knocked him out with a quick chop to the back of his head. Before Kushina could say anything, Felix shouted, "Keep the Kyuubi at bay, lady. We'll take care of the rest." As he said this, Hiruzen came up next to him and started to cast hand signs. "What is Jiji doing here?" Naruto momentarily wondered before his eyes widened as comprehension set in. No, he can't be. His suspicions were confirmed as Hiruzen cast a final hand sign and the Shinigami roared to life behind him. He had to do something, but his body was too small and helpless. "I'm sorry about this, Kushina, but sealing the Kyuubi inside of Naruto is truly for the best," Hiruzen said, gazing at her with a sad look in his eye that took all argument out of said redhead. He turned his gaze to the Kyuubi then, and the Shinigami reached through his chest to the beast. As Kurama cursed, half of his being was then ripped from him and sealed within Sarutobi. "Tighten the chains now," Felix shouted to Kushina before Kurama could take advantage of his smaller size. She complied as Hiruzen quickly set up the altar. "Forgive me, Minato, Kushina and Naruto," Hiruzen asked before shouting a trigram seal. With a final roar, Kurama felt himself being pulled into Naruto, cursing all the while. Then it was over. Naruto found himself once again within his mindscape as the seal resolved itself. Dimly he noted that he was in his 17-year-old body again, though that was due to his real mental age. He looked up as the ever-familiar cage manifested and a particularly loud demon fox with it. "Damn it all." Kurama roared before a sudden jolt in his mind occurred. He growled at the agonizing pain in his head as his forgotten memories began to reassert themselves. "What's wrong, Kurama?" Naruto asked, only to be ignored. "He is going to be out of it for a little bit, Gaki," Felix said as he appeared within the mindscape to Naruto's shock. He did not remember all that happened between the two of you initially, but now that he is a part of your mind again, they will be coming back to him. Then he doubled over as Naruto socked him in the gut. Hard. "What the hell is wrong with you? Why did you let Obito release Kurama from my mother? And why did you make Jiji sacrifice himself?" Felix regained his composure and responded, "Look, Gaki, I am sorry I had to resort to that, but it had to be done. There are laws in the Elder Dimension that were put into that time travel scroll, and one of the big ones is that no being from the Elder Dimension is allowed to tinker a large amount with the timeline in question. One of the restrictions to avoid messing it up too much is that I am not allowed to fight against anyone the person who turned the timeline back had fought. So it was a no-go for me to stop Obito for you, since you fought him. I also could not be the one to seal Kurama back into you, since you had fought him as well when you made your bid for his power. If the beings of the Elder Dimension went around solving everyone's problems for them, no one in those other dimensions would be able to do anything for themselves. If I had tried to break the rules, and trust me, I wanted to, then my life would be forfeit and the jutsu that brought us back would have been undone, making this trip for nothing. I did not want to sacrifice someone else like the Sandaime, but it was him or your parents. He made the choice entirely of his own free will. I did not force him. So I am sorry, but it was the best option available to us." Naruto sank to his knees in despair. He had just gotten back and already one of the people he had hoped to save from the horrors of the time he had witnessed was gone. Was the future really written in stone? Would this happen to everyone else he hoped to prevent the deaths of? "Don't give up yet, Naruto," Felix said with a sympathetic tone to his voice. "We have already managed to save your parents, even if it was trading their lives for the Sandaimes. He would not have wanted you to let that trade-off be in vain, now would he? You did not come back to this time to just allow everyone you care for to die sooner, did you?" "No, I guess not," Naruto said as he wiped away his tears. He could not let this unexpected turn bring him to his knees. "Though I wish you would have let me know what your plans had been beforehand. First of all, there was too little time before we came back. For all we know, one of the Jaiubi's Bijuu bombs could have already been on its way to destroy us. I could not take that chance. Secondly, would you have gone through with it if I had?" "I would not have liked it," Naruto admitted. "If you two are done with this conversation, I think that it is time for us to make plans for the next few years." Kurama interjected having recovered from reclaiming his memories. "Hey Fuzzbit, are you feeling better yet?" Naruto asked, glad to see his old friend again. Fuzzbit. Kurama sputtered as Felix laughed at the nickname. Gaki, you had better open this cage now before you make me any more cranky. Yeah, alright, Naruto said as he complied, letting Kurama out. So Felix, what is our next move? First things first, I had better bring your parents into this conversation. This is something we should collaborate on. Minato groaned as he woke up. Who on earth had knocked him out? He looked up and saw Sarutobi lying prone on the ground, surrounded by a few Anbu. Two others were keeping watch over him. As he continued to take in his surroundings, he spotted a ragged Kushina holding Naruto, while a green-haired man was using medical ninjutsu on her. What happened? He asked somewhat sluggishly. That man tending to the woman knocked you out, and Lord Sandame sealed the Kyuubi in your place, Lord Yondame, one of his guards, a man in a crocodile mask responded. I see, Minato responded as he rose to his feet and went to his wife and son. He took a look at the man who was healing Kushina. He did not know who he was, but it was clear that he was very skilled to have been able to get the jump on Minato like that, even if he was a little preoccupied. He was also very good with the medical ninjutsu he was using on Kushina. He noted that the man seemed to somehow be drawing some of the residue chakra from the Kyuubi's attack from the air and streaming it back into her so she could survive without needing the complete being within her. There was a small chance that she would have survived anyway, being in Uzumaki, but this man was clearly taking no chances. Minato spared a sad glance at his predecessor's body before asking the strange man, how is she? Quite good actually, all things considered, the man responded. I have got her mostly stabilized, so we should be out of the woods momentarily. My name is Felix Ishoryu, by the way. Minato nodded in appreciation of Felix's words. If you don't mind me asking, what exactly are you doing here and why did you aid us in the manner you did? I could tell you, once I am finished with a lady, but you might want to dismiss your Anbu guards for this. I am not saying that they are untrustworthy, but what I will be telling you will be most likely an S-class secret and you should hear it before you deem who else can. Minato looked at all of the Anbu and nodded. Reluctantly, they left the clearing. About 10 minutes later, Felix announced that he was finished and Kushina sighed and said, thanks. How do you feel? Minato asked her a little nervously. Like a load of crap that countless idiots unwittingly stepped on, she groaned. But definitely an improvement over giving birth and having the fuzzbit ripped from me. Felix snorted and muttered something about that being where he gets that nicknaming tendency from. Alright then, Minato replied, taking Naruto from her before turning to Felix. Now could you please explain all that has been going on? I'm no good at sugarcoating things, so I will give it to you straight. Brace yourselves, I am a traveler from the elder dimension. I actually came to this dimension about 17 years from now and I had your son there turn time back to this point so that we could change things for the better because it all went to hell when I came. Minato and Kushina stared at him for a moment. Then, predictably, they both burst out laughing. Time traveler, Kushina choked out. Please don't make me laugh like that, my body is already pissed with me despite your treatment. Minato sobered up first when he saw that Felix hadn't even twitched. Wait, you're serious, aren't you? Serious as a heart attack, Felix responded. And I can back the claim up. He then proceeded to conjure a scroll about the same size as the forbidden one. He unfurled it, revealing the seal and said, why don't you take a look-see? Minato and Kushina shrugged, still sure that this was some kind of joke before they saw the seal. It was so fiendishly complicated that not even Minato or Kushina could make heads or tails of it. The best they could figure was that it was indeed a space-time seal, and a very advanced one at that. This is definitely something, Minato said. He glanced up at Felix. Did you make this? Meh, that one is beyond me despite the fact that my own experience is nothing to sneeze at. That is the work of one of my friends and I took it with me, figuring it would come in handy. But that is not all the proof I have. Place your hands on Naruto there and you will see what I mean. Numbly, they complied and found themselves in the dark sewer that was Naruto's mindscape, at least as far as his seal was concerned. Felix joined them and beckoned for them to follow him. For about a minute they moved through the winding corridors before they came to the room that held the cage, only the Kyuubi was out of it and was conversing with a blonde that looked almost like a carbon copy of Minato, except for the strangely familiar whisker marks. Upon noticing the two dumbstruck people in the room, said blonde turned to them and with a wide grin said, hey mom, hey dad. Chapter 2. The Elder Dimension. Hey mom, hey dad. Those words were the final straw for Minato and Kushina. Already shocked by what had happened so far with the Kyuubi incident that they miraculously survived, the time travel claims, the Kyuubi out of its cage, and now a teenager calling them his parents. So they did the one thing they were still capable of in their current mental state. They fainted. Felix, Kurama and Naruto all lasted about 3 seconds before they burst out laughing, which was rather impressive, considering just how comical it was to see Minato and Kushina foaming at the mouth. Can't breathe, Naruto gasped, leaning against the bars of the open cage for support. I had forgotten just how amusing you humans could be, Kurama gasped, on his back and hugging his chest in the hilarity of the situation. I really wish we could have a camera in here, Felix wheezed with effort. This would be blackmail gold right here. After they had sobered up, Naruto went to try to wake Kushina up first. Hey mom, you alright? Then he shuddered as he felt a large grade of killing intent. Before he could respond to this, Kushina jolted upward and socked Naruto right in the face, sending him into the wall and making a crater that would make Tsunade jealous. Who the hell do you think you are? Kushina demanded as she started to stomp on the soon-to-be corpse, kicking up an anime-style dust cloud. Do I look old enough to have a son your age? Do I? As Naruto was begging for mercy, both Kurama and Felix were laughing their asses off again. And this would be blackmail platinum, panted Felix. Serves you right, Kit. Kurama gasped. At a bar near the outskirts of the Leaf Village, a certain blonde lady with a killer bust froze. For some reason, she felt as though her record of delivering the worst beating to an idiotic male was in jeopardy. She wished that Jiraiya was around for the first time in a while so that she could re-establish dominance. Then her prayers were answered as some stupid drunk tried to cop a feel on her from behind. The resulting screams were heard for miles away. Ami, she loved chakra-enhanced strength. Once Naruto's beating was finished, Felix was able to calm Kushina down, which Naruto angrily noted he took his sweet time in doing, and they were able to bring Minato back to the world of the living. After that, they began to explain how Minato and Kushina both died in the original timeline and that upon the revival of the Gyuubi, they had to resort to time travel. Naruto was quick to explain that he was 17 in the mindscape due to being from the future and this being his real mental age. Call me crazy, but I actually believe this story, Minato said. You are not just crazy, you are batshit loco, Kushina cracked, earning a laugh from everyone present. But I believe it too. The question now is where we go from here, Minato said. All we really learned so far is how the world ended up, not how it got there in the first place. As to that, I will not give many details yet on each future event, Felix responded. Noticing the confused and indignant looks he was getting, he clarified, look at it this way. If we went around changing everything bad, that stupid butterfly effect would basically ruin any plans we may have. If too many things get changed, we will throw the entire timeline out of whack and the knowledge of what will happen in the future will become worse than useless because if we plan for one thing and something entirely different occurs, we are just asking for disaster. As such, the Elder Dimension guidelines state that what we change will be between me and Naruto. As Minato and Kushina grudgingly nodded at the sense of this, Naruto said curiously, you know, you are always talking about the Elder Dimension, but I don't know what that is. Come to think of it, I was quick to trust you when we were about to turn back time, but I don't even know much about you, or why you were even in our dimension. Care to explain about that? Ah, I am glad you asked. I was wondering when we were gonna get to that. Felix said, rubbing the back of his head. You all ever hear of the theory that states that there is more than one reality? Well, the Elder Dimension is the very first one to exist and all others are split off pieces of it. Think of it like a tree, with the Elder Dimension being the trunk, while this one is just a branch. Anyways, the Elder Dimension is easily the most sophisticated and advanced reality. We have mastered several forms of chakra manipulation and jutsu and have incredibly powerful clans. I myself am the head of the Yashoryu clan, which has a Kekkei Genkai that allows us to manipulate all 5 of the elements. He paused as they took that part in, clearly amazed. As head of that clan I own the blade Elemental Infinity, which I brought with me. He drew the blade and held it out. Minato, Kushina, Naruto and Kurama looked at the blade with interest. It was extremely keen and well crafted, all 10 circles that were etched and glowing. It was easily better than the blades of the 7 swordsmen. Now that Naruto knew its name, he realized that the 10 circles were actually 5 infinity symbols, each one representing an element. I get the elemental part of the name, Naruto started, but why does it have the infinity part? That would be because it has access to all of the world's elemental chakra, effectively allowing for practically an infinite supply of chakra. But then how did Madara manage to wear you down during that fight? While Minato and Kushina started at the name, Felix said, I said infinite chakra, not infinite durability. I was still hindered by the wounds Madara managed to tag me with. And that was a low blow, bringing that up. For the head of a prominent clan, even by Elder Dimension standards, while wielding one of the Elder Dimension's top 3 weapons, to be beaten by an upstart from this dimension is just positively embarrassing. Although in my defense, he did have that whole unfair reanimated by the Ito Tensei thing working for him, and I still nearly managed to pull a win out of my ass. The fact that I only had one way to beat him like that was a serious handicap against me. Madara was reanimated? Minato asked. So the masked man is not him. Or did he die between now and then? Madara actually is dead right now, though the masked man is affiliated with him and operates under his name with permission. Do you know the masked man's identity? I do, but I am not going to tell you. It would do no good and could do you a lot of bad. Trust me, for now at least, you are better off not knowing. Minato looked as though he was going to argue, but thought better of it. Anyhow, Felix continued. One distinction of my clan is that while we have the ability to use all 5 elements, we still have greater affinities with some elements than others. Not all members of my clan have green hair. We are born with the hair color representing our strongest element, green for wind, red for fire, yellow for lightning, brown for earth, and blue for water. I am a greenhead, so wind is my main element. Me too. Naruto exclaimed proudly. Our second place element is shown by our eye color. You can see that I am yellow-eyed, so I have a strong affinity for lightning. Well, we have no more body signs at birth after that. We developed a special ink that takes on the color of our middle element when used for tattoos. He showed them the blue dragon tattoo on the back of his right hand. So you can see that my middle element is water. The other 2 are represented by articles of our clothing, usually of our choice. He pinched the fabric of his dark brown slacks. Earth is next, and that leaves fire as my weakest, though it is still quite potent. He finished as he tugged at the sleeveless red vest that left his arms bare. I am guessing the order also shows itself for the wielder of your sword in the form of what colors the infinity symbols glow in, right? Naruto asked. Ah yes. Good eye, Gaki. Don't call me Gaki. I am 17. Mentally, yes, but you have the body of a newborn now, Felix retorted as Minato, Kushina and Kurama snorted. But yes, the infinity symbols do glow in the order of the affinities of the current wielder, starting with the strongest, that one glowing with the brightest light, and at the infinity symbol nearest to the hilt. Obviously, the weakest one glows dimly near the tip. Another thing about the sword is that only someone who can use all 5 elements at least to a certain extent can use this sword effectively, otherwise the elements that the user can't use will cause their own elemental chakra to become so unstable to the point where it could be fatal. Now to answer the question as to why I was here in the first place, well, the Elder Dimension's inhabitants try to keep their nose out of the business of other worlds. We do try to clean up our messes. Long ago, the Jaiubi was the bane of the Elder Dimension itself. In those times, we were able to drive it out of the Elder Dimension and into this one. Many of the higher-ups back then thought that they should leave it at that, but one of the best of us, who you call the Rikido Sennin these days, was concerned for the people of this dimension, and you already know how he handled the Jaiubi. So that means that I am in a way from your Elder Dimension, Kurama rumbled. That is correct, Kurama, albeit in an indirect way. Of course, there was controversy in the Elder Dimension as to whether the Rikido Sennin was a hero or a traitor. These days, he is viewed as the former, though his actions back then resulted in his exile. Today, we try to follow his example and solve problems for other dimensions if they originated from ours. There are always power-hungry bastards, even from our realm, and there is no shortage of those who leave the Elder Dimension to try to subjugate weaker worlds. So we try to keep them from doing too much damage. As a result, when the Jaiubi was revived and I was notified, I ended up traveling here. So now here I am, stuck here for the next 17 years. Why is that? Naruto asked. Aki, there is a reason I consider time travel to be a last resort. There are a lot of complications and obey under penalty of instant death rules that make it even more of a pain to utilize. One such rule is that I can't leave the dimension that had its reset button hit until we get to the point where time was turned back in the first place. This rule was made to keep the person who turned time back in the first place from messing up by ensuring an Elder Dimension denizen could keep an eye on them. My friends will probably come to see what is taking me so damn long to get back. But wait, didn't we turn time back? So when we get to the point where you can leave again, it will still be a point where you were only briefly gone. Doesn't work like that. We only turn back time in this dimension. Picture 2 spools side by side, each representing the present time of a world. The strings of both are unwound as time passes, the strings representing the past of those worlds. Turning back time, or rewinding a string, does not affect the other spool's string, and both spools are still side by side, allowing travel between the two. In other words, in the Elder Dimension, it is even now in the exact state of time it was before we turned this universe's time back. Savvy. I guess that makes sense. I have a question, Minato piped up. 2 actually. First, why were you sent to deal with an opponent as strong as the Jaiubi by yourself in the first place? That is a good question. You see, even though we of the Elder Dimension try to clean up messes originating from our home, we still try to avoid sticking our noses in too far in the affairs of other worlds. As such, one of the dumber rules was that only one knight, that's our name for fighters in the Elder Dimension instead of your local shinobi, is usually sent per enemy we have to fight from our home. Since the Jaiubi, powerful as it is, was only one foe and all others are local to this dimension, they sent a one-man army. Me. Although I still think they could have made an exception to the stinking rule, considering just what I was up against. Even someone like me going up against the Jaiubi, well, it is like asking me to try slaying a dragon armed with nothing but a pin and no chakra use. I think mom might manage that if said dragon was dumb enough to make a comment on her age or maybe her weight, Naruto joked dryly, causing everyone present to burst out laughing. I don't think she'd need the pin if it came to that, Minato managed to heave while clutching his sides. You were damn right I wouldn't, Kushina practically gasped as everyone laughed harder. After about a minute, when they were sober, Felix asked, you mentioned a second question, Minato. Ah yes, Minato replied. Just why are you and Naruto telling me and Kushina all this, when you are not going to let the two of us change things? I never said I would not let you change things. I merely said that what we changed will be at the discretion of Naruto and I. Not only that, but we need someone in a high place to help keep these things as low-key as possible. Who better than the Yondaime and his wife, on top of them being the parents of the time traveler, adding to their trustworthiness. Also, it is important for you to have at least the gist of things as they come up, so questions are not asked when we need you change something for us. I see. So that means that we are in on the loop, but on a need-to-know basis, is that it? Bingo. Minato sighed. I have gotten too used to being in a position to be the one withholding information, being Yondaime and all. Now it sucks to be on the receiving end. Felix chuckled before saying, now that that is out of the way, it is time to plan for what we need to do in the present. Once we get out of here, I am going to need a cover story. You can tell everyone that I am one of the last surviving members of a clan that kept our existence secret, which can be why no one else has heard of it before today. I will be offering my services to your village as one of your shinobi, though you will have to be careful what assignments you give me, so I don't create too many butterflies or break one of the time travel rules, yada yada. Minato nodded in acknowledgement. Alright, I guess that it is time for us to go back to reality then. You got it. Once they were all back out of the mindscape, minus Kurama of course, and were heading back to the leaf, accompanied by the Anbu, Felix whispered into Minato's ear, I know that it is disconcerting to have a baby with a mental age 17, even if he is immature. My advice to you is to just treat him like the kid he physically is. Kami knows, he deserves to have a decent childhood this time around, and it will be too funny to watch his protests to pass up. Minato only chuckled in response. Obito was furious. The blasted Yondaime had delayed his plans by breaking his control of the Kyuubi, and now he and his former Jinchuriki of a wife actually survived the attack when a green-haired stranger and that old Sandaime foiled his hopes that they would die in the attack at least, making it easier to plan his next moves. Zetsu was wisely keeping his distance from his infuriated boss. Obito's brooding was interrupted when the air seemed to crack and pieces fell, causing what seemed to be a rift in reality. 5 people stepped from this tier to stand before a shocked Obito and Zetsu, 4 of them standing behind the one in the lead, who was covered in head to toe in plate armor colored in the darkest black Obito had ever seen, with the other 4 wearing simple black hooded cloaks that obscured all of their features. The only body feature in sight from this group was the jet black hair that flowed out of the back of the lead person's helmet to the back of his knees. Obito got up and demanded, who are you people and what are you doing here? That was before he was hit by the lead man's aura, which projected a very high level of killing intent, one that intimidated even the Uchiha, who staggered back after quickly recognizing the fact that this was definitely not a person to tick off if you were fond of breathing. I am Raisen Jinshukyue Itsuri, gravity manipulation, and these 4 are my underlings. The armored man replied. Individual introductions for them can come later. As for what we are doing here, we hail from the Elder Dimension, and I have a proposition for you. Needless to say, Obito found his interest piqued. Chapter 3. Catching up to the future. Obito thought hard on what had just occurred. The armored man that had led the strange group had told him a very interesting story about how the Elder Dimension was, as the name implied, the oldest one in existence, and that the Jaiubi and the Rikido Sennin both originated from said dimension. Raisen had then claimed that the Rikido Sennin was the last bearer of the Elder Dimension's prized Ijutsu, the Rinnegan, and deliberately split its power in 2 among his descendants to keep it from returning to the Elder Dimension due to him having lost faith in its governing system. Raisen then proceeded to explain that he was aware that Madara had been able to reunite the 2 halves of the power and implanted them into a boy named Nagato. Then he offered to aid Obito and the organization he was going to build over the next few years in reviving the Jaiubi and using its power for the Eye of the Moon plan. It did not take Obito much effort to figure out what Raisen wanted in return. You want the Rinnegan, he had stated rather than asked. Raisin had laughed and said that Obito was correct, though he would wait until after the Eye of the Moon was complete to take his payment, but he would expect a good faith payment as soon as Obito was finished with one of his side projects, which Obito quickly recognized as an implication that Raisin also knew that he was helping to stoke the Uchihas into a revolt and wanted Obito to provide him with Sharingan. Once a few of the clan had been killed and would no longer need their eyes. Obito had spent little time deliberating. The offer was good, for he would no longer need the Rinnegan once the Genjutsu had been cast, and he was sure he could easily spare 2 Sharingan once the revolt had taken place, for whether or not the Uchiha won or not, there was bound to be at least a few casualties among them. If by some chance that did not occur, he could always terminate a few himself. As for what he would get in return, it was quite obvious from the aura Raisin gave off that he would be a powerful ally, one he definitely did not want as an enemy. So he had agreed. Now he was thinking about the deal he had just struck. It seemed too good to be true, and unfortunately, that usually meant that it was. That Raisin was extremely shady, and Obito was sure that he was after something else entirely and planned on using him for it. But Raisin was too powerful for Obito to really have a hope of going up against, so he would have to wait until the Akatsuki was formed and make sure he had loyal and powerful followers before he could very carefully plot against his new ally. "I'm certain he suspects, Lord Raisin," one of the cloaked men said to his armored master. "It is clear that he is no fool, and it is easy to deduce that you could easily take the Rinnegan yourself easily." "Yes, but the last thing we want is to tip off the higher-ups in the Elder Dimension that we are here and that the Jinchuriki Tsuri clan still has a surviving member," Raisin replied. "If there is anything that would provoke a large reaction from them, it is the power we hold. They would send more knights than even I could handle." He laughed and continued, "So for now, we operate with and through our new pawns, discreetly gathering the pieces we need until we have our real prize within reach." Minato was relieved as his paperwork neared its end. It had been 2 months since Kurama had attacked the village under the influence of his amnesia and the masked man. It was still a little hard to swallow the idea that he and Naruto had befriended each other, though he and Kushina both considered that to be somewhat small news compared to the whole time travel thing. The funeral service for all those who perished fighting the Fox, with Hiruzen Sarutobi being one of the most mourned, had been held a week after the attack. There were many who broke the shinobi rule of not shedding tears, but Minato did not blame them at all. It was a very heavy blow to the spirits of the village. A few days after that, the village council had finally managed to drag him into a meeting to discuss Naruto's fate. Minato and Kushina had by then revealed that they had been secretly married and that Naruto was their son, but that did not stop several members of the civilian council and Fugaku, the head of the Uchiha clan, from wanting the demon brat killed. Fugaku was greatly angered by the Kyuubi's attack due to the accusations from many of the villagers against his clan that emerged from the rumors that an Uchiha had controlled the nine-tailed beast, and he wanted the recompense and revenge. The members of the civilian council were just plain scared idiots that could not distinguish between a jail and the prisoner, though Kurama did not seem to mind so much anymore, not that anyone else had to know that. Anzo Shimura, backed by Homura Midokado and Kahara Utatane, was determined to enlist the boy into his root program and turn him into an emotionless weapon. This was only further motivation for Minato to keep the fact that Naruto and Kurama were on good terms under wraps, as if he needed it. If that got out, Danzo would become more determined, seeing even greater promise in using Naruto as a tool of war. Fortunately for Minato, he was able to gain the collective support of Hiashi Hyuga Shikaku Nara, Choza Akimichi, Inoichi Yamanaka, Tsumen Yazuka, and Shibi Aburam, and keep custody of his son. Further arguments were quickly put down when Kushina started to get irritated, scaring the crap out of the idiots, the council. Minato then made it law that no one was to discuss the Kyuubi, for several reasons. Among them was the fact that he knew that Naruto would be a target of those who wanted to bring back the Gyuubi, and he wanted to prevent them from making any early moves. Secondly, this would hopefully give Naruto a chance to have friends growing up this time around, since the parents of children would not be allowed to tell their children why they wanted them to stay away from Naruto, and hopefully Naruto's status as the son of the Yondaime would help cancel any negative feelings the parents gave their children, giving them a chance to judge Naruto for who he is. Finally, this measure had been taken in the previous timeline, and it was imperative to keep things as close as possible to that timeline so that this one could maintain a measure of predictability. Minato stressed that the breaking of this law was punishable by lifelong incarceration or even death. Protests naturally abounded at this, only to be silenced by Kushina, threatening to be the one to carry out the latter penalty if they argued. The topic then moved to Felix Yoshoryu. Minato told the council an obscure and believable story that the man was a previous acquaintance of Hiruzen and had been in town when the Kyuubi attacked. Felix had agreed to help Hiruzen seal the Kyuubi in Minato's place, which was obviously successful by the fact that Minato was the one alive now. The council was pleased that Felix had decided to stay on as an elite jonin, and they were quite intrigued with his Kekkei Genkai. There was talk of trying to marry off Felix so they could establish the new clan, but Minato told them flat out that Felix had no interest in doing so. Felix had told the group earlier that he was already married and had 2 kids he had left behind. He expressed great sorrow that he would not be able to be there for them as they grew up over the next 17 years, something Naruto knew the Minato of the original timeline could easily relate to. Other than that, there were few problems with allowing Felix to settle in the Leaf Village, though Danzo brought up the question as to whether Felix could be trusted or not. Minato responded by saying that Felix had already rendered a great service to Konohagakure, and it had been clear that Hiruzen had trusted Felix to help him seal the Kyuubi and prevent Minato from being the one to sacrifice himself, though that was Felix's plan, but again, the council did not need to know that. He also brought up the fact that Felix had given expert care to Kushina, and for that, Minato was fully prepared to trust the man. But that the meeting had ended, but the headache was very persistent. And every time he had almost cured it, the next wave of paperwork would only bring it back full force. But now he was just finishing the final stack, and it was about time too. He was getting very close to the point where he would simply flash it all to an obscure place to burn later, flash back and deny that it had ever existed, but he knew Kushina would kill him if she had ever found out that he had to resort to such measures to skip out on his duties like that, and he knew she was more than capable of doing so, now that she was fully recovered. She was not called the bloody habanero for nothing. Or tomato either when she was a kid, but he would never say that, even if he was sure she wasn't around. He was too fond of his internal organs and his skin to take such a stupid risk. He sighed in relief as he set the final sheet aside when there was a knock at his door and his blood froze. No, please Kami, no. His worst fears were confirmed as 2 of his secretaries came in, both struggling under stacks of paper that would probably be taller than them if set down. Face-palming to hide his anime tears, he said, "Thanks you too, why don't you take the rest of the day off?" What happened next was the last straw for his nerves. "Thank you Yondaime-sama, but it is going to take at least 2 or 3 more trips to bring the rest in before we can go." Felix was in the midst of doing a few chakra control drills at a training ground a few miles away from the Yondaime's office when his eardrums just about popped at the agonized cry of "No. Why me?" Turning in the direction of the cry, Felix chuckled, apparently the paperwork for a cage is a level of torture that even that Anko lady would have problems replicating. Naruto, while sad that the Sandaime had sacrificed himself to seal Kurama and him again, was actually glad to at least have the friend and comrade he thought he wouldn't see again initially. Upon hearing this, Kurama merely chortled, "I guess that you are still stuck with me for life kid. Tough luck for you. And you are stuck with me as well Kurama," Naruto grinned. Kurama froze at this. "Crap, when you put it like that, I guess I am not really in a position to laugh at your misfortune. It's rather clear that you got the better end of the deal." They shared a good laugh at that. Naruto was especially glad to have Kurama still with him due to his 17-year-old mind stuck in his rather tiny and helpless 2-month-old body. At least he had decent company to pass the time. And it was passing slowly indeed. He wanted ramen as always, but he was stuck drinking nothing but milk until his teeth grew back in. You'd think that time travelers from the elder dimension would have invented a decent ramen flavored milk just for cases like this, but Felix had laughed at him and said he was on his own for that. Jerk. Naruto was also unable to walk, meaning he had to put up with the rather crappy, pun intended, diapers rather than simply go to the bathroom. He couldn't even talk. If he wanted to have a conversation with someone other than Kurama, he had to bring them into his mindscape, but with his parents and Felix being the only ones available, his options were limited. Not only that, but Felix was always busy with training and getting acquainted with everyone in the village, and his parents were still rather nervous around Kurama. Not that he could blame them, and Kurama just found it rather amusing, but the next few months were going to be very long indeed. It was finally Naruto's first birthday and his parents were throwing a party for him, something he was not quite used to. He was really looking forward to seeing many of the people he cared about for the first time. Jiraiya was the first to arrive, though that was due to him being dragged there by his hair by a very irritated Felix, who had caught him doing his research, thus resulting in Felix kicking the crap out of said pervert. It was a shame Kushina and Felix were both married, because she was in love. Apparently, Felix had a great deal of respect for the privacy rights of women and made it quite clear how embarrassed he was for his own gender. Naruto thought it was hilarious that Jiraiya got his ass kicked by a guy with strong principles this time for his peeping, instead of the usual pissed Kunoichi. Felix probably did him a favor when he thought about it. As Jiraiya finally recovered, he started doing his best to embarrass his little tyke of a godson, though Naruto did not mind. He was too glad to have a shot at saving the man who had helped shape him into the person he was now. This time, Hiro-senin, I will make sure that the final outcome of what happened with Nagato will be different and I refuse to let you die this time. Kakashi was next to show, a little before the party started, causing Naruto to try dispelling an obvious genjutsu, but apparently Kushina had threatened Kakashi, saying that if he was not on time for her son's special day, she would remind him exactly why she was the only person that Minato feared and would use his Icha books for the resulting funeral pyre. That was clearly enough to encourage Kakashi to show up a little early for once. Naruto remembered the last time he had seen Kakashi in his time, as Obito had pulled him into that dimension of his. Naruto did not know for sure if his sensei had perished at the hands of his former comrade, but Naruto swore to himself that he would make sure Kakashi survived for sure this time around. While there were other guests, the next that had an impact on Naruto was Hisashi with his son Neji. Apparently, Hisashi had been a friend of Naruto's father back when they were genin. As Neji and Naruto were introduced, Naruto thought about the events of Neji's death. Flashback. Naruto was on his knees, unable to avoid the Gyuubi stakes in time, only able to watch as Hinata came between him and the attack, ready to lay her life down for him without so much as a thought, only for Neji to come between her and the attack, getting impaled in places that not even Tsunade would have been able to heal, even if she was present. Trying to deny the evidence before his eyes, Naruto supported his mortally wounded friend and comrade and shouted, "We need a friggin' medic." "No," Neji wheezed. "It's too late." Neji coughed as Hinata said sadly, "Brother. Hinata-sama is willing to die for you," Naruto Neji stated with conviction. "So keep in mind that your life is not your own anymore, it also includes me know as well." With Hinata shedding tears next to them, Naruto desperately asked, "Why not in a place like this? You're the Hyugas." Neji seemed lost in contemplation when Naruto continued with tears in his eyes, "Why would you go this far for me? Sacrificing your life?" With a final smile on his face, Neji replied, "Bekase was called a genius and so the mark on his forehead finally faded as he died, having freely chosen his death. I thought you wouldn't let me kill a single one of your comrades." Obito mocked from on top of the Gyuubi's head. Naruto. Then flashback. Naruto had almost broken then and there. He was unresponsive to his surroundings, with Obito's words that his views were naive and there was nothing left for him but suffering in this world. Had it gone any further, Naruto's psyche would have almost certainly snapped. But then Hinata had slapped him, bringing him back to reality, and with her declaration that it was Naruto's principles that Neji had died for, and with some further pushing from Kurama, reminding him what his parents had sacrificed themselves for, Naruto was able to re-emerge from the darkness. Now Neji was here in front of Naruto, and Naruto was damned if he was going to allow this second chance to go to waste. Neji was not going to die this time, not if Naruto had anything to say about it. And now that he thought about it, there was also something else that Naruto could change for Neji. As Hisashi and Minato caught up a little, Naruto recognized that the man was quite warm towards the Namikaze family, even him and Kushina. It did make sense when Naruto thought about it. After all, the branch house members were quite aware of what having a seal placed on them against their will was like, so being able to relate to Jinchuriki was quite natural. Unfortunately, Kushina's close friend Makoto was unable to come due to Fugaku's hatred of the Kyuubi and by extension Naruto. Ever since the Kyuubi attack, the villagers had been getting more and more hostile to the Uchiha clan because of their suspicions of the clan, despite the best efforts of Minato to keep the situation from coming to a head. The absence of Makoto did not stop Naruto from thinking about Sasuke and Itachi. That was probably the most important thing he had to change. If you weren't forced to slaughter your entire clan Itachi, then Sasuke would never have gone down the path of hatred. You could have helped him get strong without him losing sight of who he was, and you would probably have been able to help keep the future from going to hell like it did. This time, I will make sure that this is the case. The massacre will have a different result this time, I swear it. The party was actually rather uneventful, except for when Felix and Kushina both pummeled Jiraiya and Kakashi without mercy when they were discussing inappropriate content from the Icha series, where Naruto and Neji could hear them, much to Naruto's amusement. Naruto was glad to have presents this birthday, instead of having to run for his life from drunk mobs on this particular day. Sure, most of them were little kid toys, but it was easily an improvement over what he had in his previous life. A couple more years had passed, Naruto's third birthday had come and gone, and Felix was dealing with a massive headache. After a day of the training exercises, Minato and Kushina had finally begun running him through, in recognition of the fact that he would need to be as strong as possible for the coming storm, despite their wanting him to just be able to enjoy his childhood. He had come to Felix asking if they could change an event. The previous day Hisashi had stopped by, extending an invitation to the Namikaze family to attend the heiress Hinata's third birthday party, while coincidentally, a delegation from Kumagakure was coming to the Leaf to sign a treaty on the same day, meaning Minato would have to show up later. Naruto and Felix both knew what was going to transpire. The ninja from Cloud would attempt to kidnap Hinata, resulting in Hiashi killing him and causing further hostilities between the two shinobi nations. Kumo would demand Hiashi's corpse in recompense for Konoha's violation of the treaty so they could get their hands on the Byakugan. The Hyuga clan would then sacrifice Niji's father to keep the Dojutsu from Kumo, while seeming to appease the latter. However, if the Kumo ninja could be caught alive this time, and if they could get him to confess his goals, Konoha would be able to call bullshit on Kumo's claims and demands. The problem was that while Felix did want to do this, he had to consider all possible changes that might screw up any plans they had. The butterfly effect was just one of the many things that made time travel such a major pain in the ass. Seemingly harmless changes now could have serious repercussions further down the line. This was one of the reasons that time travel was so rarely resorted to, and no one has had to for over half a century, something he was being constantly reminded about when he finally managed to establish some communications with the elder dimension. His friends were never going to let him hear the end of it, and he was not looking forward to his wife getting her hands on him in about 14 years. She was going to be so ticked about him being gone for so long. Despite Felix's doubts about what could ultimately happen, he eventually agreed to save Niji's father because Naruto was adamant on doing something to repay the department he owed the Niji from the future. So, stating that any negative consequences were on Naruto's head, Felix went to have a chat with Minato. On the day of Hinata's birthday, Naruto and Kushina were among the first to arrive. Naruto noticed many dirty glares from the main family towards him and his mother, though they were quick to hide this when she looked their way. Naruto grinned. It seemed even the stoic Hyuga were scared of the bloody habanero. The branch house members on the other hand showed a great deal of respect. This served to further increase Naruto's determination to become Hokage and change the ways of the clan. Eventually, Naruto spotted Hinata and froze. Just like Kakashi, he was not sure as to what her final fate had been before he turned back time, though it was extremely likely that she had perished fighting the Gyuubi. As Naruto watched her hide behind her father, he contemplated what had happened to bring them so close in the past. Back then, it was his determination to see the bright side of life, despite the brutal treatment he had received at the hands of the village that she had been attracted to in the past. She had tried so hard to be like him, despite her chronic shyness, and never let anyone else affect her view of Naruto. She had always been able to see him for who he was, and he felt stupid for never noticing her attraction to him. He had remained in the dark about it due to this obliviousness, and it had taken an invasion of an extremely powerful foe to get her to confess her feelings for him, followed by her almost dying for him to realize his feelings for her. He would not make that mistake again. If he was fortunate enough for her to fall for him again, he would not let it go to waste. He walked up to her and tried to strike up a conversation, but as expected, she was too shy even at this point to make much progress. Naruto was disappointed, but hopefully he would eventually manage to bring back her feelings for him. It was about a week later when Minato and Felix entered the Hyuga compound. Minato had managed to arrange a meeting to discuss village business for this particular night. While Minato and Hiashi went over some of the redundant documents, Minato grumbling all the while about wondering how the village could still possibly have trees, Felix acted like his legs were kinking up and got permission to stroll through the grounds, accompanied by a branch member named Ko, who also happened to be Hinata's caretaker. As planned, they happened upon the Kumonin as he was making his getaway. Felix moved fast, dashing by the kidnapper and taking Hinata from him as he went. As the man realized he was caught, he pulled a kunai and engaged Ko. "Don't kill him," Felix shouted out as he set Hinata down. "I want to know who he's working for." For a moment, the Kumonin and Ko were engaged in a taijutsu battle before the former was able to break away from the fight and rush towards Felix and Hinata, intent on reclaiming his prize. With a swift motion, he launched 3 shuriken at Felix, who, rather than dodge, swept his left hand in front of him, fingers splayed. In that same motion, he caught the first shuriken between his index and middle fingers, the second in his middle and ring fingers, and the final one between his ring finger and pinky, before he reversed the motion and threw the stars right back at their owner, before he realized what happened. All 3 weapons hit him dead on, all in non-vital spots, causing him to stagger back and giving Ko the opportunity he needed to close in and shut down several of his tenketsu. Defeated, the Kumonin slumped unconscious. About 10 seconds later, Hiashi and Minato rushed to the scene to investigate what the commotion was. "What is the meaning of this?" Hiashi demanded as he took in the unconscious masked man and his daughter lying on the ground, the latter now awake and seeming terrified of the situation. "Lord Hiashi," Ko responded. "We ran into this man as he was trying to leave the grounds with Lady Hinata over his shoulder. Our guest Felix and I were able to apprehend him without any problems, and Lady Hinata is unharmed." "I see," Hiashi replied as he knelt and unmasked the man. "That's the Kumonin I just signed the treaty with a week ago," Minato stated, faking shock. Well, he clearly has some explaining to do, Felix said. Negotiations with Kumo actually went smoothly from there since they had proof of Kumo's treachery and the Cloud was unable to justify any demands for the Byakugan. Needless to say, Minato, Felix and Naruto were quite pleased with themselves and how things went. Now Neji won't have to grow up with his burden alone, Naruto thought with a smile. Chapter 4. A mighty spar, then back to the academy. So tell me what we are doing here again. Minato asked Felix as they, Kushina and a nearly 5-year-old Naruto headed into the basement of the rather large compound Felix now owned. That pile of paperwork at my desk won't get any smaller while we're here. Honestly, I do not even know why we bother with shinobi anymore. All we have to do to defeat our enemies would be to throw those massive piles at them and they would not stand a chance. Oh, for Kami's sake. Felix said. Why don't you stop complaining about all that paperwork, it's getting irritating. Honestly, is there some sort of rule against using shadow clones, or is there really that much paperwork that even that does not work? Minato froze. Wait, what? Damn it, Felix. Naruto yelled. I was gonna sell him that secret. Felix gaped at Minato while Kushina was laughing her ass off. You mean to tell me, he said incredulously, that you never thought of that? I am so stupid. Minato said as he wept in tears. You just spared me from so much future suffering. Felix sighed as he pinched the bridge of his nose, astounding that one of the world's smartest shinobi could miss something so glaringly obvious. Aha, you're right about that, Minato said before he frowned and turned to Naruto. Am I to understand that you knew the secret all this time and you just let me muddle on because you were busy trying to figure out how much you could make off of my pain? Oh, Naruto said as he spotted the frenzied look in his father's eyes that he usually saw in his mother's. I am so screwed. Anyway, Felix quickly intervened before the enraged Minato could finish strangling his son with Kushina, trying to calm him down. Wow, a backward situation. That paperwork must have really done a number on Minato's sanity. I brought you three here to show you a little something I was working on over the past few years. He opened a door to show a pure white plain room that somehow seemed to be much larger than the space it was supposed to occupy. This here is what I like to call an all-out sparring room or Ao's room because it is a distortion in the space-time continuum and everything that happens in here is erased from said continuum once certain criteria are met. And this is important why? Minato asked. Because it will allow for any level of sparring with no repercussions. Even if one of us actually kills the other, there will be no harm done because once the spar is over, we will find ourselves right back out here without a scratch unless of course you had it before entering the room. This means we can cut loose a little and practice our most dangerous techniques against an actual foe. And yes, one of the features is that we actually remember what occurs after the fact. It took me the past 4 years to finally get the blasted thing right and I actually had to call in for some assistance on more than one occasion from home. I might have dabbled in this sort of thing once or twice, but it is far from my area of expertise. Naruto, Minato and Kushina were now very interested in the possibilities the room had to offer. Well, it would not help them with the more physical aspect of their training, because any physical strain would be erased, it would certainly be of aid in coming up with strategies against dangerous enemies and safely settling disputes as to who is a stronger fighter. Kushina also harbored the rather wicked notion that she could drag anyone who ticked her off into the room and kill them slowly. Over and over and over again, wahahaha. Near the bathhouses in Konoha, a certain white-haired pervert suddenly shivered. Why do I get the feeling that I should be a lot more careful around Kushina than usual now? He asked while weeping in tears. Not to question your work or anything, Minato asked. But is the room always white and empty like that? I mean it is not going to be very useful if. Of course not. Felix declared. All I have to do is concentrate before entering the room on an environment and the room will imitate it. As he said that, the room actually did shift to show the forest on the outskirts of Konoha. Anyway, I brought you guys here because I wanted to ask you Minato if you were interested in helping me break this room in tomorrow. And yes, summoning do work, so you will have all your tricks up your sleeve available. Is that a challenge? Because if it is, I accept. Excellent. Same time, same place tomorrow then. You got it. The next day, Naruto and Kushina were following the two combatants into the room. Naruto was excited at the prospect of watching his father and the person who helped him so much already duke it out with no holds barred. The field currently resembled a meadow with a thin amount of trees surrounding it. Both combatants walked to opposite ends of said meadow and stared each other down. On 3. Kushina shouted, having been selected to start the match. 123. Fight. Minato wasted no time in throwing one of his Hiraishin kunai at Felix, who dodged and drew Elemental Infinity, launching one of his signature Thundering Gale slices at Minato with the same movement. Minato was able to dodge it, only to find that Felix had instantly closed the distance between them and swung his sword at Minato's head, forcing the latter to harassment to his previously thrown kunai. It was then he realized that the same slash he had just narrowly avoided was used to launch another of those bothersome slices right in his direction, with no hope of dodging in time. That's what Felix thought anyway. The instant before the slice hit him, Minato smirked and here I shined again. Felix's eyes widened as he realized that Minato must have slapped one of his seals on him before he had flashed to the kunai to avoid the slash. Sure enough, Minato appeared right next to him, a fully charged Rasengan in hand. Blast. Felix cursed as he jumped back, the Rasengan grazing his chest a little and shredding the front of his red leather vest before it was slammed into the ground. Minato rose and looked at his opponent, who tore off the remains of the vest, the Hiraishin seal with it, leaving his torso bare and said, "You jerk. You have any idea how expensive these are?" Minato rolled his eyes and replied, "Yeah right. Didn't you say that all damage would be repaired once we left?" Felix grinned sheepishly. "All right, you got me, I was just giving you a hard time." They shared a laugh at this before Minato drew some more kunai and threw them in some random directions. He moves at about the same speed as a Taijutsu specialist with 7 celestial gates open, Minato mused as he did this. Well, my speed is nothing to sneeze at either, I am going to have to abuse the hell out of Hiraishin if I hope to remain untouched and make sure I have plenty of options to go to so he doesn't send one of those slices to greet me next time. Man, those Rasengans are potent attacks, Felix thought. I was just barely nicked by that one and it tore through the reinforced leather like it was nothing, as well as peeling a good layer of skin off my chest. I cannot allow a direct hit against me or I would be taken out in a heartbeat. They dashed at each other again, only for them to both veer off to opposite sides, Minato casting fast hand signs. Wind style. Multiple air bullets. As the name implied, several small balls of air emerged from Minato's mouth to go at high speeds in Felix's general direction. However, Felix simply cast several one-handed signs with his left hand. Fire style. Giant flame dragon lance. Minato's eyes widened as Felix breathed out a massive amount of fire in the shape of a dragon, each air bullet hitting it only increasing its eyes as it sped towards Minato, forcing him to hurry into a position he had set up behind Felix's current area to throw a kunai at his back. Felix dodged of course, only to have to again when Minato hiraishined to the thrown kunai's location, catch it and throw it again. This process repeated itself several times until Felix just dodged once and quickly slashed where he knew Minato would appear. The attack caught Minato off guard and he was diced across the chest. The smile was wiped from Felix's face when Minato disappeared in a puff of smoke. "Crap," he said as the real Minato appeared with another Rasengan. This time Felix got it a bit in the side, though he was once again able to dodge the worst of it. He quickly swiped down at Minato, who was unable to dodge or Hiraishin again on time, so he resorted to quickly striking the side of elemental infinity with a still charged Rasengan, causing the sword's elemental energies to flood the Rasengan, I don't think it takes a genius to figure out where. The resulting blast when the sphere exploded nailed both Minato and Felix, launching them back away from each other, sporting several cuts and burns as a result, though Minato got a little more damage due to the fact that the said bomb was in his hand at the time, plus he slammed painfully into a rock, while Felix was lucky enough to simply skid a little on the ground. "Man, that's smarts," Felix said getting up gingerly as Minato followed suit. Clearly the Rasengan mixed with elemental energy the wrong way results in a lot of pain for everyone present. "Tell me about it," Minato grinned. "I have been trying to upgrade the silly thing by adding elemental chakra for years, but all it's gotten me so far was multiple trips to the hospital." "I don't doubt that. When did you make that shadow clone anyway?" "When I launched those air bullets earlier, I knew that you were most likely going to respond with a large-scale fire technique. Fire might be your weakest element, but I knew that you would not hesitate to use it if you were up against the element it beat. I figured that when you did use it, there was a good shot at it being large enough to obscure your view of me, at least for a moment. That's when I quickly made the shadow clone, and we hiraishined to different locations, the clone following the assault while I waited to catch you off guard. Brilliant, you actually took advantage of one of my own attacks, and you almost had me too. Unfortunately, you're just too quick even when I do surprise you. You're not holding back by any chance, are you?" "If I was, you would have already beaten me," Felix answered seriously. "You?" "Likewise," Minato answered with a grin and he pulled out 2 kunai. They closed the distance again and started exchanging blows. Minato realized that if he tried to block elemental infinity with his kunai, the blade would simply shear through it like it was nothing but air, so when he needed to stop it from cutting him, he instead used quick strikes to the side of the blade to divert its path rather than outright stop its progress. This also served to give Minato an opening to try to strike Felix with his other kunai. "Good call," Felix stated when he noticed what Minato was doing as he sidestepped another jab from the latter's kunai. He proceeded to slam his fist right into Minato's cheek, sending him flying. But not good enough. Minato recovered by flipping and throwing one of the kunai. Felix dodged and Minato hirai-shined to it and parried Felix's quick counter-strike with the other kunai, with yet another Rasengan in his free hand. Felix hastily backed off and this time managed to completely avoid the attack, though it was still way too close for comfort. Felix and Minato stared each other down, both panting with the exertion of keeping up with each other. Felix moved first, stabbing the ground with his sword. Elemental style. Dragon ruler of all elements. With a lot of rumbling and elemental energy, the same dragon that Felix had conjured to fight Madara and he would dragon sprang into existence again. Minato quickly bit his thumb, cast the hand signs he needed and slapped his palm onto the ground. Summoning jutsu. There was a good deal of smoke as the three gargantuan toads that Naruto recognized as Gamma Bunta, Gammakin and Gamma Hero arrived at the battlefield. "Oh, it's time for that fight, then." Gamma Bunta rumbled as he blew a puff of smoke, having been briefed the previous day by Minato about the spar. "Yes it is," Minato said. "Remember, don't bother with elemental attacks, he will only counter with the opposing element. So just weapons and brute force then." Gamma Hero commented. "That sounds like my style." "I'm not sure I am graceful enough to fight such a foe," Gammakin said a little nervously. "But I shall give it my all." "Enough talking, he's attacking." Bunta, An. "Yes, I am going to use the shorter version of their names for this, it's easier that way," shouted as Felix's dragon breathed fire right at them. Initially ignoring Minato's advice on the elemental attacks because he felt that he should at least counter fire style with water style, Bunta shouted water style. Liquid bullets. Two large spheres of water shot out of Bunta's mouth at the approaching fireball. Hinata grinned as they extinguished it, only for his eyes to widen as an earth-style attack the dragon had launched behind the fireball overpowered the water spheres. "Told you," Minato face-palmed, having wisely moved to Hiro's head before the earthen clod slammed into Bunta. Naruto and Kushina watched in awe as Hiro and Ken engaged the dragon. Hiro's blades dug into the earthen hide of the elemental beast, while Ken slammed his staff into the wind head of the massive creature. Said head merely reformed and fired a blast of water at Ken, charged with lightning, which Ken was quick to avoid, claims of clumsiness be damned. Hiro was also forced to back off to avoid the flaming tail of their opponent. The pissed-off Bunta recovered from the recent blow and rejoined the fray, sliding on his back under the beast's belly and kicked his hind legs into the gut of the creature, launching it an impressive distance into the air. "Dad is amazing to go toe-to-toe with Felix, isn't he?" Naruto asked his mom. She chuckled and said, "Can I pick them, or can I pick them?" As the elemental dragon sailed through the air, it spread its lightning wings and stabilized itself, actually gaining altitude and hovering above the battlefield, with Felix still riding it. "Great," Minato muttered as the dragon rained down some elemental attacks, forcing him and his three summons to do a lot of dodging. "I was hoping that those wings were for show or maybe some simple offensive purposes. I did not expect the creature to actually fly with those wings." As he said this, he noted that his chakra was already dangerously low and he only had 2 kunai left. He had to finish this with one fast gamble. "Bunta, I am going to need you to jump as high up as you can," Minato said as he re-established himself on the toad's head. "I'll take care of the rest." Bunta obliged, managing to get level in the air with the dragon so Minato could leap towards it and launched one of the remaining kunai he had. As it sailed right above the dragon's back, he flashed to it and landed on the earthen part of its body. He rose with his gaze fixed on Felix, who assumed a battle stance. Minato cast a hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 4 clones sprung into existence with Minato and one of the clones falling behind the other 3, where he discreetly traded his last original kunai with the clone's copy. The first 3 clones charged Felix with the 4th right behind them, while the original Minato charged what would be his final Rasengan. Needless to say, Felix quickly dispatched the first 3 clones with a blinding display of his skilled Kenjutsu, and the 4th managed to graze his arm before also getting cut down. What Felix was not expecting was for the clone's kunai to remain as the clone popped out of existence, and Minato capitalized on this, flashing to said kunai. "Rasengan." He shouted as he slammed the spiraling sphere straight into Felix's torso, just below the chest. Felix cried out in pain as the blow launched him so far he fell right off his dragon's back, his sword falling from his grasp. The said dragon then fell apart, so Minato also found himself in freefall, too exhausted to do anything about it. Fortunately, Bunta extended his tongue and caught the blonde, while Felix landed limply in the wooded area. "Well done," Bunta remarked after setting Minato down. Then he and his fellow summons disappeared. "Looks like I won," Minato panted with a grin before Felix suddenly appeared behind Minato and pierced him through his back and out his chest with his wind chakra covered hand. "Did you now?" Felix asked before coughing up some blood and covering his chest wound with his other hand. How did you withstand the Rasengan? Right before you hit me, I knew I would not be able to dodge this time. So at the last instant, I focused some wind chakra at the point of impact to take the brunt of the blow. You still did some major damage, but I could still fight. Darn, that's more than you could say for me. I guess I lose. Minato said with a sheepish grin. Outside of the room, Minato and Felix were exchanging some notes about the fight, Minato still amazed that all damage done was really gone, as promised. Then Minato paused as he spotted Kushina, with a pout on her face, hand grinning Naruto several bills of cash. He looked like a gaping fish for a second as he processed this, before spluttering, wait a minute, you two actually bet on our match. And Naruto, you actually bet against me? Actually both Mom and I both wanted to bet on you, Naruto quickly said with an appeasing gesture. So we had to draw straws on it. I thought my luck had failed for a little bit, to tell you the truth. Minato face faulted. Next time, Naruto bets on me, he deadpanned. That crazy luck of his gave Felix an unfair advantage. Flashback. Read M and weep, boys, Kushina laughed as she revealed her full house of 3 tens and 2 kings, beating Minato's ace flush. Recently, Kushina thought it would be a good idea to teach Naruto to play poker, to teach him a harsh lesson about being careful with betting, so he would not become like Tsunade, and hoping to win all of Naruto's allowance back to fuel her next shopping spree and Raymond pig out. So far it was failing miserably, as Naruto had won all 3 hands they had played so far with a full house of his own, a straight and a 3 of a kind hand. She and Minato were flabbergasted to say the least, and they were sure he wasn't cheating, they were watching him like hawks. How much is 2 pairs worth? Naruto asked as Minato said a tearful farewell to his remaining cash. Sorry Naruto, but even your dad's hand beats that, Kushina said with malicious glee at finally winning. Oh well, Naruto sighed as he tossed down 4 sevens. Kushina stared for a minute at the hand with an impressive fish imitation, while Minato sensed the danger and quickly flashed out of the room. All of Konoha heard the shriek of Erg why kami wai. Then flashback. Needless to say, Minato never gambled with Naruto again, though Kushina just refused to quit, determined to prove that Naruto's luck would run out sooner or later. It was finally Naruto's first day at the academy, and he was not happy about having to attend all the boring classes. He had already remastered most of his abilities, including Sage Mode and the Rasen Shuriken, though Kurama told him that he would have to wait for his body to develop a little more before sharing his chakra, since he was sure that Naruto's current 6-year-old state would not be able to handle it yet. Minato was surprised to learn that Naruto was able to complete the Rasengan, though he was disappointed to learn that the completed version was useless without Sage Mode. He made a mental note to make some time for a trip to Mount Mayaboku after letting Naruto sign the Toad summoning contract again. Felix had revealed that he knew a Sage Mode of his own when he told them to take a close look at his eyes, and they noticed that the pupils had become slit. He proceeded to explain that this was what a perfect Sage Mode for those who have a summoning contract with the elemental dragons of the Elder Dimension looked like, and that it was not so noticeable due to the fact that his eyes were already yellow. This was how he could move so fast. He maintained his Sage Mode in battle by absorbing the nature energy from elemental infinity, even while he was moving. He had then asked Naruto and Minato to teach him the Rasengan, and they agreed that it would be perfect for him because of his ability to potentially mix it with any element that he chose. He scared them a little though, once he mentioned that it would be potentially invincible if he could mix in all 5 elements at once with an evil grin on his face. Ah, the possibilities. And now Naruto was moving towards the monument to boredom, knowing that the only good he could do there would be befriending everyone he had known last time again. There really wasn't anything important he could learn there anymore, not even academic-wise, for his mom had already made sure to cram all that into his head. But he saw the value of keeping everything as close as possible to the last time, though he had no intention of being the dead last this time around. Although he grinned widely. He did pull plenty of pranks in the previous timeline, why not this time around? As he entered the classroom, he noticed that he was one of the first there. There were only 3 other people in the room. He spotted the lazy bum Shikamaru in the back row, snoring his life away. Choji was sitting next to him, munching his potato chip so loudly, it was a wonder he didn't wake his friend up. In one of the middle rows was a particular raven-haired boy. Without hesitation, Naruto sat right next to him and said, "Hello, my name's Naruto Namikaze." Wow, he was still having trouble getting used to that last name. The raven-haired boy looked at him and smiled. "Mine's Sasuke Uchiha," he replied. Later that evening, Sasuke returned to the Uchiha compound in a very happy mood. Upon entering his home, Mikoto looked at him and asked, "I take it your first day at the academy was a good one, sweetie?" "It was," Sasuke replied before turning to Itachi. "You were right, big brother, I had no problem making a friend." "Told you so," Itachi replied. "Who is this friend?" "Naruto Namikaze." Fugaku, who had been taking a sip of his tea at that moment, choked at this. Upon recovering, he glared at Sasuke and stated, "Sasuke, you are to stay away from that boy. I do not want you to even speak with him anymore." "What? But why?" the now upset child demanded. "There is no need for you to know the reason, all that is necessary is for you to do as I say." "But." End of discussion. Honey Mikoto said, flaring some of her killing intent, cutting off Itachi, who looked as though he was going to come to Sasuke's defense. "You don't really think that the couch is a comfortable place to sleep for the next 2 months, do you? An. Let's all have a round of applause for Tensa Zangetsu 102. Fugaku paled as what she said sunk in. "You wouldn't make me." "Oh, you know I would," Mikoto replied with a deceiving smile. "Sasuke, I support your friendship with Naruto. Your father doesn't really mind, do you honey?" Fugaku merely sighed and shook his head. Itachi looked at Sasuke and made discreet motion like he was brandishing a whip, earning a chortle from his brother. "You wanted to speak with me, father?" Itachi asked Fugaku later that night in one of the compound's private chambers. "Itachi," Fugaku started. "What I am about to tell you is an S-class secret that you are to inform no one that I mentioned it to you." Itachi raised his eyebrow as Fugaku proceeded to tell him about the Kyuubi. At the end of the explanation, he replied tonelessly, "I see. That is why I want you to keep a close eye on what occurs between him and Sasuke. If you so much as think that he might hurt your brother." Fugaku gazed intently at the older of his two sons. "Take care of it." Chapter 5. Wounds reopened. It had been about a year since Naruto had befriended Sasuke, and now the two were thick as thieves. Naruto was currently in the running for what Kushina called proudly the Itazurikage, joke shadow, with Sasuke as an occasional accomplice, to Fugaku's displeasure. Much to Minato's exasperation, Kushina was over the moon with Naruto's first few jokes and practically encouraged him to pull some more. Several of the more memorable jokes were Naruto and Sasuke sneaking into the Anbu headquarters and slipping copious amounts of pepper into the nose area of the masks, them capturing the Katora instead of the usual Genin team, only to set him loose in the Inyazuka compound, resulting in a great deal of mayhem, putting a dummy of Jiraiya set to explode on impact with paint when hit outside the Kunoichi Springs in his research position. They accidentally got Felix with that one. Though he took it well and actually complimented their little trap and switching their academy instructors, one that came before Iruka and who disliked Naruto because of Kurama, headband with a fake that said "I'm an idiot" when he wasn't paying attention, resulting in all the students niggering at him without a clue why. The biggest joke yet, however, was a repeat of the Hokage monument painting, pretty much the same designs as last time, with Naruto giving the instructions to Sasuke while they worked. The only difference was Minato's head. He was now painted with an expression of mortal terror, with tears in his eyes and a few lump designs on his hair. On the rock behind his head, there was an image of Kushina preparing to swing a rolling pin in both hands at the back of his head with fire in her eyes. Kushina thought it was a masterpiece, while Minato was shedding tears upon realizing that the whole village would now have an idea of how whipped he was. But now Naruto was in trouble for an entirely different reason. He and Minato were now currently listening to the BS of 3 sets of angry parents, claiming that Naruto had assaulted their children, while Naruto was busy trying to tell his father the real story. Flashback. "Now hurry up and apologize." One of the 3 kids in question demanded Hinata as he grabbed her head and forced her to her knees. "I'm sorry," Hinata whispered. "Not good enough, say it like you mean it." "Knock it off." Naruto shouted at them as he came upon the scene. "She already apologized for whatever it is you think she did wrong, now leave her alone already." "Hey," one of them said as he looked at Naruto. "It's the Yandame's kid." "You're right," the one holding Hinata down replied, releasing her as he turned to Naruto. "So, you think you're better than us too, do ya? Well, your old man ain't around now, so what are you gonna do?" "I'm gonna kick your asses if you don't back off now," Naruto declared. "Ah, look at you," the last one said with a sneer. "Already got a swelled head because of who your dad is. No wonder half the village hates you and the rest of them are just trying to kiss up." "Oh, that's not why half of the village hates me, it is something else entirely. And though I won't deny that my head can swell up a little, it's due to my own abilities, not because of my dad." "Oh, yeah? We'll see about that." And with that they all charged Naruto, who just looked bored, as evidenced by him digging in his ear with his pinky. 3 idiots getting their asses handed to them later. "Now why don't you apologize?" Naruto asked the 3, who were lying in pain on the ground. "We're sorry," they said in unison. "Good, now get out of here." They hastened to obey, running so fast they almost left their shadows behind. "DTTH, thank you," Hinata said, as she rose shakily to her feet. But why did you help me?" "What? Do I really need a reason to help someone when they need it? My name is Naruto Namikaze, by the way." He extended his hand to her. "Hinata Hyuga." She shook his hand tentatively. "Lady Hinata." Ko called out upon spotting her and coming up to the two. What happened, why are you here of all places? The quick explanation of how the three boys had dragged her into the woods after she had run into them by mistake and how Naruto came to her aid was given. I see. You have my thanks, Namikaze-san, Ko said, bowing respectfully before taking Hinata's hand and leading her away. As they were leaving, Hinata looked back at Naruto with a glimmer of the same emotion she had for him the last time around. Then flashback. Minato finally shooed the outraged parents out of his office with a sigh of exasperation. Really, some people did not seem to know the difference between assault and coming to someone else's defense these days. Finally, I can get to important things, he said, sitting back down at his desk and creating several clones. Honestly, if it wasn't for that shadow clone secret Felix gave me for the paperwork, I would have lost my mind by now. Dad, Naruto began with a serious look on his face. By important things, you mean the Uchiha's coup that is in the planning stages right about now, right? There was a thump as Minato dropped the folder he had just retrieved in shock. How did you write time travel, he deadpanned. Yeah, and I know how it ended last time too. Itachi walked into Minato's office later that night, confused as to why he was called on such short notice. He noted that Felix was also in the room before asking. You wanted to see me, Yondaime-sama? Itachi, I am going to take action on the coup you have informed me about last week, Minato said. Itachi blinked. I thought you were going to try to resolve this peacefully and ask me to try talking them out of it. I was, but I fear that the situation is going to escalate very soon. I know Fugaku well enough to tell that he is beyond reason at this point in time, and I believe that Danzo plans to have the entire clan eradicated. He always was far too radical and forceful. The point is, Itachi, Felix continued. If we don't take decisive action now, there will be a bloodbath on our hands. That is why the night after tomorrow we are going to raid the Uchiha compound and take Fugaku and other leaders in the coup into custody. I promise that no excessive force will be used unless there is resistance. The problem is that we don't have enough evidence to justify the arrest as of yet. Am I to assume that this meeting is to ask me to get that evidence before we move? Itachi asked. Yes, that is the case, Minato replied. That is unnecessary, Itachi said, earning incredulous looks from both Minato and Felix. What do you mean? My father has committed another crime that we can bring him in for and I can testify to it. He revealed to me that the Kyuubi is within your son. I see, Minato said. And you are willing to do this? He is your family after all. I am capable of seeing the bigger picture, Lord Yondaime. The village is the most important thing and if there is a chance to resolve this without bloodshed, I will take it. Just promise me that my mother and my brother will be left unharmed. I already planned on it. Once we take Fugaku in, will the coup fall apart? It should. Without my father as clan head, my mother should be able to take over and she was against the coup from the beginning. Then all we need to do is make sure Makoto and Sasuke are out of the way before we make our move and hope things go smoothly. On the night of the raid, Kushina was able to persuade Makoto to bring Sasuke over to the Namikaze estate to train with Naruto. With that part of the plan out of the way, Minato left with his strike team, which consisted of Itachi, Felix, Kakashi, Might Guy and 4 of his best Anbu. As they approached the compound, Minato stated, remember, our objective is to get in, get Fugaku, and get out before things get ugly if possible. Odds are, we will encounter resistance, though I hope to avoid that. Should that occur, you have permission to use lethal force, but only if necessary. We need as little bad blood as possible to come of this. The rest of the team nodded in understanding. Fugaku-sama. An Uchiha clan member called to the clan head as he was about to enter his home. What is it? Fugaku asked. The Hokage is on his way to the compound as we speak. He has several Anbu and Jonin with him and Itachi is a part of the group. Fugaku cursed. He knew the Yondaime would not come unannounced unless as it was an emergency and certainly not with a small fighting force. The only explanation was that he knew about the coup and that meant Itachi had betrayed the clan. So be it, he muttered. He still loved his son, but he had betrayed the entire clan with his actions and sided with the corrupt village that had put the Uchiha down for so long. Inform all of our fighting ninja to prepare for a fight. Send the first 5 you find to me, I have a special task that needs taking care of. The messenger immediately set off. Within 2 minutes Fugaku had the 5 shinobi he had requested assembled in front of him. Good, that was quick, he said approvingly. What would you have us do, Fugaku-sama? One of them inquired. I am sending you 5 to the Namikaze estate. Just outside the Uchiha compound, Minato and his team were greeted by a large number of kunai and several fire-style attacks. Looks like they were expecting us, Kakashi remarked as they quickly dodged the assault. He pulled up his headband, revealing his Sharingan, and proceeded to engage 2 Uchiha that came at him. Itachi, get to Fugaku. Minato shouted as the rest of the team was quickly tied up with a various number of Uchiha each. We'll handle the rest of the clan here. I'm on it. Itachi responded, weaving through his attackers, Sharingan flared, heading for the building that his family lived in. He was momentarily stopped by a large group of his fellow clansmen who tried to bar his path. The way was then cleared however, when Felix launched a thundering gale slice at them, forcing them to scatter. Felix came up beside Itachi, his eyes lit to show he was in his Dragon Sage mode. "I've got you covered," he told Itachi. "I'll keep your path clear until we get to Fugaku." Itachi nodded in thanks as he dodged another clan member, and Felix slammed the handle of his sword into the back of his head, knocking him out. Soon enough, they arrived outside of Itachi's home. "Go!" Felix shouted as 4 more of the clan came at them. Felix turned to face them while Itachi entered the building. Itachi dashed through the halls of his home until he came to the main sitting room where he found his father waiting for him. "So, you chose the village over your clan and family," Fugaku stated as he drew his katana. "So be it." "Father, there is no need for bloodshed," Itachi pleaded. "If you could just come quietly and call off the rest of the clan." "Enough." Fugaku rushed Itachi, his katana coming down forcing Itachi to block with his own. Their blades were locked as Fugaku continued, "I already know your reasons, and you know mine. Now all that's left is for us both to put our convictions on the line. If you hesitate, I will cut you down." They both jumped back and Fugaku fired a giant fireball jutsu at Itachi, who dodged in the fireball, and it blasted the entire side of the building out. "Father," Itachi said sadly, and they rushed at each other again. "You need to use more chakra," Naruto told Sasuke when the latter fell right off of the tree he had been attempting to walk up. I know," Sasuke muttered, rubbing his newly acquired lump, while Kushina and Makoto sniggered. Then Makoto froze and shouted, "Kushina, watch out." She knocked Kushina aside and grabbed the arm of the man that had just tried to strike the back of Kushina's head with the blunt side of a kunai. "Lady Makoto." The Uchiha protested as she twisted his arm behind his back. "The Yondaime is laying siege to the Uchiha clan. We need to take his wife and child alive so we can stop him." "What?" Makoto cried, shocked at this, as she looked towards Kushina. 2 more of the Uchiha quickly closed in on Kushina, only to be caught and restrained by her chakra chains. "It's true," Kushina said. "Itachi told my husband about the coup and they are trying to stop it now. We made sure that you and Sasuke would be here at the time so that you two wouldn't be caught in the crossfire if things went south." "I see," Makoto replied, knocking out the Uchiha she had restrained earlier. "If that's the case, we need to move somewhere safer in the chance Fugaku sends more weight. Where are Naruto and Sasuke?" Kushina whipped around to see that the 2 boys were indeed missing from the training grounds. "Oh no. Last, I should have realized that bastard Fugaku would try to take mom and me hostage," Naruto thought angrily while he and Sasuke ran through the woods near the Namikaze training grounds. Upon realizing that he and Kushina were being targeted, Naruto had fled in an attempt to lead the other 2 Uchiha away from the others. Unfortunately, Sasuke had followed him, wanting to know what was going on. Naruto stopped without warning, grabbed Sasuke's arm and threw him aside as a hail of shuriken came at them. He jumped and was able to avoid them. However, one of the Uchiha came up behind Naruto and caught him in a full Nelson. "You're coming with us, Namikaze brat," she declared. To her shock, Naruto just looked back at her with a grin and asked, "That's so?" Then he disappeared in a puff of smoke. "What? A shadow clone?" Rasengan. The Uchiha woman turned in time to see the 7-year-old coming at her next to another of his clones, with a chakra sphere in his hand. Before she could do anything, the Rasengan was slammed into her gut and she was thrown back, impacting painfully against a tree. It was clear that she wouldn't be getting up anytime soon. "You're next." Naruto shouted as he turned to the remaining Uchiha shinobi, who quickly got over his shock and started casting his next jutsu. "No way," Sasuke thought in disbelief as he watched Naruto charge the remaining enemy. "Is my friend really that strong already?" Naruto avoided a fireball and closed in on his opponent, ramming his fist into the Uchiha's face, only to phase through. "Crap, when did he put me in a jinjutsu?" Naruto thought as he frantically cast the hand sign to dispel it. So he not only knows the shadow clone jutsu and his accursed father's Rasengan, but also already knows how to dispel jinjutsu. The Uchiha thought. Not bad, but it's too late. He dashed at Naruto with his kunai drawn. Time suddenly seemed to slow for Sasuke when the shinobi dashed at his friend, who was unable to respond due to the jinjutsu. "Naruto." He cried out as he leapt towards them in desperation. As the jinjutsu was dispelled, the Uchiha shinobi came into view for Naruto, but with no remaining time to dodge the kunai thrust. "Crap," he thought. Blood spattered the forest floor. Itachi and Fugaku continued to clash their blades, occasionally launching a jutsu or 2 at the other. Fugaku would manage to get behind his son and impale him from behind, only for Itachi to dissolve into crows and reform for another attack. Itachi would launch a fireball at Fugaku and witness his father either dodge or cut through the attack for a fast counter. And so the battle went back and forth and through the streets of the Uchiha compound. However, Fugaku was not expecting the battle to come to an abrupt halt when they charged each other again. Just before their blades clashed again, Fugaku slipped on blood that had been shed in what must have been a previous fight in the area between the clan's shinobi and the strike team. Normally, Fugaku would not have missed such a thing, but Itachi had covered the puddle with a genjutsu, having planned ahead of time. "Forgive me," Itachi whispered before impaling his now off-balance father through the chest. Fugaku coughed up blood and collapsed. "It seems that I am finished," Fugaku managed to say. "Your determination to protect the big picture, it seems I underestimated your conviction, my son. If the village is truly that important to you, then there is something you must know." "What do you mean?" "I wasn't alone in plotting the coup. There was a masked man who helped spur me on." Fugaku paused as he coughed up blood and his breathing became more ragged. He claimed to be he coughed even more violently. "Father," Itachi cried while realizing that Fugaku had only seconds left in this world. Not willing to let the knowledge die with him, Itachi shook him frantically. "Who did he say he was?" "Mamadara Uchiha," Fugaku managed to say with his dying breath. Itachi's eyes widened as this sunk in. "But that man should be dead," he whispered to himself. Shaking his head, he decided to work that out later as he picked up Fugaku's body, not realizing that his eyes momentarily took the form of a three-pronged shuriken. He had a fight to stop. Naruto was trying to deny the evidence before his eyes. Sasuke was standing in between him and the shinobi, the kunai that was meant for Naruto embedded in his gut as he gripped the arm of the shinobi with both hands, his teeth grit in pain. When the shinobi had attacked, Sasuke had come between him and Naruto, taking the hit for him. Not again, Naruto thought with desperation, not again. Flashback. It was over. The Gyuubi's Bijuu bomb was coming for him and he was too exhausted to dodge it. He had no hope of survival. "So this is how it ends," he said with regret. Before the blast could hit him, however, he watched a figure surrounded by a purple aura come between him and the blast and take the full force of it. The explosion still had enough power to knock Naruto back and cause him to black out, though he had recognized his friend in his last instant of consciousness. Then flashback. The Uchiha shinobi was horrified at what he had just done. His clan leader's son was now badly injured on the end of his weapon, glaring up at him with his now blood-red eyes with two tomo, before he blacked out. Before Sasuke even hit the ground, Naruto rammed full force into the man who had likely killed his friend. The impact launched him backwards until he skidded to a stop. Before he could even try to get up, Naruto was on top of him. The Uchiha stared in terror at Naruto's red-slit eyes as the latter began mercilessly pounding him with a feral expression on his face. Eventually, the man's screams for mercy got through to Naruto's mind. As Naruto looked down at the man's barely recognizable face, he was horrified at what he had done. He had almost killed a man, not out of necessity, but out of hatred. Had it gone any further, the man would have almost certainly died. Sickened with himself, Naruto struck him one more time to knock him out and dashed back to Sasuke, his features returning to normal. To his immense relief, he found his friend still breathing, though his wound was serious and would need to be treated as soon as possible. The night ended with the death of Fugaku made known and Mikoto arriving to order the rest of the clan to stand down. Naruto had managed to get Sasuke to the hospital on time, using a shadow clone to find their mothers and letting them know what had occurred. Of the Uchiha's 67 fighting shinobi, 19 had been killed in the struggle, most of them at the hands of Minato and Felix, though not by design. Nearly all the rest were hospitalized for their injuries, along with Kakashi, who had overused his Sharingan, Guy, who had opened 5 celestial gates, and 3 of the Anbu, the 4th being the only casualty on the strike team. Itachi's friend Shisui Uchiha was discharged after a minor injury on his arm had been treated and he apologized to Itachi for failing to stop the clan with his genjutsu before things had escalated, which Itachi had accepted. Shisui departed the hospital greeting Felix as the latter passed by. Felix entered the hospital to find Naruto in the waiting room. "I heard what happened," he told the boy as he sat next to him. "Will Sasuke make it?" "Yeah, he'll be fine," Naruto replied, though he still seemed downcast. "Listen, it was not your fault. I also failed to see Fugaku's tactic coming. I know that this sounds ironic, but not even those who know the future can predict everything." "It's not that, at least not entirely," Naruto replied before looking around to make sure no one was near. "When Sasuke took that kunai for me, it was a reminder of how he had died, before we came back." "I see." I snapped after that. "I was beyond reason. I wanted to kill that man out of sheer hate and I almost did. But you didn't. You regained your senses before it was too late. Most people who are pushed as far as you were would not have been able to do that. The fact that you could shows how strong you are, Naruto, and you should be proud of that." "Thanks, Felix. Anytime." Shisui sighed as he strolled through the forest outside of Konoha to clear his mind. A disaster had hopefully been averted, though it would take some time for things to fully settle down. He was relieved that they now at least had a clan head that would steer them towards peace. He froze and whipped around. Nothing. He spent a few moments trying to make sense of the strange sense he had just had of someone being behind him. He finally relaxed and muttered, "All this excitement has been making me paranoid." He turned to resume his stroll and almost ran headlong into a man in black robes wearing a mask with a single eye hole. Before he could react, the man impaled him through the heart with a blade. As the dying man glared up at his assailant, the latter said, "Your power will be quite useful indeed, Shisuichi." Chapter 6. Aftermath and Plots. "You're sure of this?" Minato asked Itachi. It was the night after the incident and Itachi had told the yondaime about his father's final words. "I am positive, Lord Hokage," replied Itachi. "The name my father gave me was that of one of the Leaf's co-founders, Madara-ichi. I am not sure if this is the real Madara we are dealing with or not. He should be dead by now, but if there is someone who could extend his life like that, it would be him." Minato sighed and rubbed his temples. It had come back to the masked man again. Felix told him that the masked man was not in fact Madara, but continued to refuse to tell him the man's true identity, and Naruto was keeping his mouth shut as well. After digesting Itachi's words, Minato considered everything he knew about the man. He knew that, Madara or not, he was an extremely dangerous Uchiha. His mask only had one eye hole, the right one, which probably meant he was missing his left eye. He had seemed to know a thing or two about Minato's moves, though that could be written off as having a very good spy network. He had known Madara at some point, which probably put him at a decent age, though he would have to be a little past his prime for the most likely ages. Though there was still the possibility that Madara did extend his natural lifespan even if only a little. Not only that, but Felix seemed to think that the knowledge was not something he would want to know about. As much as he trusted Naruto's and Felix's judgment, he felt he needed to figure this out. The man was an Uchiha who only used his right eye, seemed to know about Minato's abilities, and there was thought that the knowledge would be something Minato would not take well. Oh no. Minate's eyes snapped open as the pieces fell into place. It couldn't be, but it fit much better than Minato would like. Itachi noticed Minato deep in thought before seeming to have a sudden revelation. He was about to say something, but the door burst open and Asuma dashed into the room. "Lord Hokage. I am sorry to disturb you, but this is important. Someone somehow got into the morgue without leaving a trace of their presence, except for the fact that all the eyes of all the Uchiha that were killed during last night's incident have been taken by someone. Not only that, but Shisui Uchiha has been found dead in the forests outside of Konoha, and his eyes are missing as well." "What?" Itachi shouted, shocked to hear about the demise of his closest friend. "How are you feeling?" Naruto asked Sasuke as he entered the hospital room. "I've been better physically, but I'll be fine in that area," Sasuke replied. "I just can't believe that my father would have done such things. Planning a coup on the village and actually coming for you, I just don't understand." "Hey, look on the bright side, at least you awakened your Sharingan." Sasuke actually gave a small smile. "Yeah, there is that." "You hate him?" "No, I can't hate my own father. But I do know that he did need to be stopped, so I can't blame anyone for his death. Mom agrees with me on that." "Good, at least Sasuke isn't going down the path to hatred this time," Naruto thought with a sad smile. "We've got a good start to fixing things." "Anyway, I'll be out of the hospital in a few days," Sasuke continued. "Then we can start training again. I don't want to have to take another kunai for you." "Yeah, it's getting to be a habit with you." "What?" "Oh. Nothing." Naruto panicked as he cursed his big fat mouth. He was saved from the possibility of Sasuke getting suspicious by the arrival of Itachi. "Feeling alright, Sasuke?" Itachi asked. "Hello Naruto," he then said with a small smile at his brother's friend. "I'm fine, big brother," Sasuke replied. "What about you? You alright after being the one who had to kill dad?" "I'll get over it, but something else has occurred. Shisui is dead." "What?" Both Naruto and Sasuke demanded, having the same reaction as Itachi. "You are quite generous, Obito," Raisin said as he removed his helmet and laid down on the operating table, his face still obscured by the shadows. "I knew that you would deliver the good faith payment, but to have a set of Mangekyou Sharingan. You certainly outdid yourself this time." "It is no trouble at all," Obito replied, smirking under his mask as he prepared Shisui's eyes. "I can be quite generous with my power when I want to be." It was about 2 days after the incident had occurred and Naruto was being pulled towards his dad's office by Kushina. Apparently, after all that had happened, she was determined to give Minato some good news for a change. So now she was putting a scroll into Naruto's hands and pushing him into the office, telling him to open it towards Minato so he could read it when she gave him the go-ahead. Naruto felt he could use some good news as well. After learning of Shisui's death, he had been depressed. Even though he had never met the Uchiha, he had hoped that preventing the Uchiha clan massacre, he could save him as well. But it seemed as though he had failed again. "Minato, how is it going?" Kushina asked sweetly as he and 4 clones were going through the large piles of paperwork that the incident had resulted in. "Kushina, glad you and Naruto could stop by," Minato replied. "It's going alright, though it's going to take some time for the waters to calm between the village and the Uchiha clan." "Well, Naruto and I have something to tell you," Kushina said with a nod to Naruto, who opened the scroll with the writing in it facing Minato, who stared dumbly at it for a few seconds before he fainted, his clones going poof as well. Confused as to why good news would make Minato pass out, Naruto checked the writing on the scroll before doing as his father had done, fainting. Kushina laughed hysterically at the two as the scroll fell, the words, "I'm going to be a big brother," displayed to the air. "Obito-sama, do you really think it was wise to give him a Sharingan that powerful?" Zetsu asked Obito. "It is true, for now he will be a greater threat because of it," Obito replied. "But the Sharingan he is now using is Mangekyo, which will mean his vision will start to deteriorate to the point of blindness. That will give me an advantage when the time comes for us to struggle for power in this organization. But won't his Sharingan allow him to manipulate you? That will render your plans useless. I have already thought of that, which is why I am going to take a few of your clone spores. Every 2 minutes when I am around Raisin, you are to have them send a bit of chakra into my system. That should dispel any genjutsu he puts on me when I am not paying attention." "I see. That is cunning, Obito-sama." Both Naruto and Sasuke screamed in mortal terror as they fled the academy with a horde of love-struck girls right on their heels, Sakura and Ino in the lead. It had been 5 months since the incident with the Uchiha clan and Naruto finding out that his mother was pregnant. Things had settled down for the time being. Mikoto had taken leadership of the clan as planned, though Itachi had some support. He had refused, preferring to remain an active shinobi. Sasuke had eventually moved on from the death of his father, though he was still seen mourning at times. They had finally gotten Iruka as their teacher in the academy and things had been looking up since then. Unfortunately, at some point, most of the girls had finally passed the cooties phase and were now after Naruto and Sasuke on a regular basis. This group had ambushed them as they had tried to leave the classroom unnoticed once the lesson was over. Moving quickly, they rounded a corner and Naruto made 20 clones, had 10 of them turn into Sasuke and the clones scattered in pairs, while the originals used the transformation technique to appear as stones on the road. Once the fangirls were gone, they returned to their normal forms with a sigh of relief. "How the hell do they keep finding us?" Naruto asked exasperatedly. He remembered Sasuke having these problems the last time, but it was new for him. It was likely due to the fact that he was known as Minato's son this time around and wasn't exactly bad looking. "I don't know, but let's get out of here before they catch on that we are not among the decoys and come back," Sasuke replied, shuddering at the thought of being caught by them. "Agreed." They immediately set off, eventually finding themselves at Ichiraku's where they saw Itachi and Felix each enjoying a bowl. "Oh Sasuke, Naruto, how was your day at the academy?" Itachi asked. "You look a little like you've seen better days." "Horrible evil monsters," Naruto replied with a shudder. "It never ends," Sasuke continued. "Make it stop." Itachi's sweat dropped as he watched both boys go into the fetal position. "Fangirls again?" he asked while Felix snorted. Itachi remembered his days in the academy, running for his life and dignity from the said plague. He recalled a particularly nasty incident when he had resorted to hiding in a dumpster to escape his fan club. He almost wished they had caught him upon being chewed out by both of his parents for coming home smelling like garbage as a result. Part of the reason he became an Anbu was so he could get away with wearing a mask all the time, so he could ditch them more easily. So far he was able to keep them from catching on to which Anbu was him, but he feared that it was only a matter of time before he would be requesting another mask be issued to him from Minato. After Naruto and Sasuke recovered from their horrible experience, Itachi bought Sasuke a bowl of ramen, though he was smart enough to refrain from paying for Naruto's. His wallet could not be labeled as a masochist anytime soon. After that, he and Sasuke headed home. "Hey, Naruto," Felix said while Tucci was gleefully counting the money he had made off of Naruto. The only other customer who brought in this much was Kushina and she was eating for 2 now, so Tucci was making a killing lately. "Your father wants to have a word with the 2 of us." "What about?" Naruto asked, slurping up his last bowl of ramen. He did not say, but it probably has something to do with the Ed. "Alright, let's go." With that, Felix paid his bill and they headed off towards the Hokage's tower. "You know, I remember my days when I was being chased by fangirls as well." "What? You had fangirls too?" "Of course. I was a prodigy back in the Elder Dimension growing up and I am from one of the more prestigious clans there. Not only that, but my looks were considered devilishly good to a lot of them." Naruto snorted. So, how do you deal with it? I got married to a very scary woman, Felix deadpanned. It's amazing what having a wife that terrifies the living daylights out of people making it clear that you're taken can do to that otherwise unstoppable force. Well, that certainly explains why Dad doesn't seem to have many problems. But doesn't that mean you're whipped? Felix's sweat dropped. There is no such thing as a perfect solution, you know. Naruto sniggered. I bet you're wishing that that vixen of yours wasn't so shy right about now, eh Naruto? Kurama sniggered. Shut up Fuzzbit, we haven't even started to really talk to one another yet, Naruto thought of Kurama before he asked Felix. You just reminded me when you mentioned your clan, is it the most powerful one in the Elder Dimension? No, though it is up there. Of course, the most powerful clan that the Elder Dimension saw, the Jinshukyuei Utsuri, died out long ago. The Jinshukyuei Utsuri? Who were they? These days, we only have legends of them, but their Kekkei Genkai allowed them to manipulate gravity at will. Isn't it the force that pulls us down to the ground? I see that your mother has been hard at work pounding information into your head. That is correct, though that is not all there is to it. You see, all objects have a gravitational attraction to them and other objects. The more mass an object has, the greater the attraction. Since the ground has the most mass in the world, it has the strongest pull on all objects near it. But a Jinshukyuei Utsuri could easily increase or decrease these attractions with a thought and reverse them, allowing them to attract one object to another or repel them. It's kind of like what pain could do, only with more power behind it. It was also a simple matter for them to either make objects either lighter or heavier at will, even to the point where flight was child's play for them. Supposedly, this actually allowed them to wear armor as heavy as they desired, while making it light enough to easily move in without even being slowed. In fact, I believe that if you used their abilities to condense whatever metal they chose to a point where it was virtually impenetrable and used their power to make the extra weight non-existent. But that kind of power would eat up a large amount of chakra, Naruto said. To use it like that in battle, constantly maintaining it, they would not have lasted that long. Under most circumstances, that would be correct. However, the Jinshukyuei Utsuri had massive chakra reserves, comparable to a Biju. Felix paused to let this sink in. Not only that, but they somehow had very good chakra control despite this, enough to make those regular clones that you had so much trouble with if they wanted to, not that they ever had a use for such a technique. With those factors working for them, they were able to meet the heavy demands of their jutsu. And if the legends are anything to go on, their greatest application of their power was to create a microscopically small point where the gravity was so strong that even light would be sucked into it from an area about the same size as a normal Rasengan. They could use this for either defense by absorbing attacks into it or offense by using it as a projectile on enemies. And if that point of gravity absorbs enough matter, they could detonate it by releasing the gravity from that point, causing it all to violently explode, likely with enough power to rival a Biju bomb if it was going for more than a minute. Naruto shuddered. He did not relish the idea of going up against someone who had that much power. If they were that powerful, what happened to them? They were not a virtuous clan to say the least. It is believed that their Kekkei Genkai twisted their minds at birth, resulting in them becoming power-hungry. If there ever was a clan that was born evil, it would be them. At one point, they became the tyrannical rulers of the Elder Dimension until all other clans united and rose up against them. Even then, the only real reason they were defeated was because the clans outnumbered them by over 100 to 1, and even then, about 90% of the allied clans' forces were slain in the struggle. But in the end, the Jinshukyuei Utsuri clan was driven to extinction. Wow, Naruto said as they approached the Hokage's tower. Good, you're both here, Minato said when Naruto and Felix entered the office. Look, Minato, I already told you, Felix started. I am not going to tell you every little detail of the future until we get to points where we need your assistance to change something so. It is not that I want to ask Felix, this is about the masked man. Felix sighed and said, I already said that you are better off not. He's a Beto, isn't he? Felix and Naruto both stiffened. So you know then, Felix said. I guess it wasn't that hard to figure out, now that I think about it. Minato sighed and buried his face in his hands, clearly having hoped that Felix or Naruto would deny what he had deduced. Minato, I know what you are thinking, Felix said. You can't hold back if it comes to another fight between you two. As much as I hate to say it, he has become too dangerous to do so. Saving him is out of the question now. Kakashi tried, but Obito likely killed him in the future, though neither Naruto or I saw it. I did not want you to know, because I thought you would hesitate to do what needs to be done. He is already most likely past a point of no return, and what's worse, he actually believes that his goals, which I still won't say yet, are ultimately for the greater good. I know that, though it won't be easy to stop thinking of him as my student. You are going to have to put those feelings aside when the time comes. Remember, Naruto and I have seen what the future he brought about is like, and we need to prevent it, even if it does mean killing Obito. "I know how you feel, Dad," Naruto piped up. "I had a comrade in the future who went down a dark path despite my best efforts to prevent it, and I was fixated on bringing him back. Eventually he did come back, but it was only due to some special circumstances that I had little to do with. And he barely made the decision to honor the choices of the one he was trying to avenge, he had been so far gone. Obito is already beyond even that point. I won't say that he can't be saved, but he did so many things that I cannot forgive, even if many of them haven't happened yet, and I prevented the first of them." "You're talking about the death of Kushina and I, right?" Minato asked. Then he sighed. "You're both right. If he truly has fallen so far as to try to destroy the village and try to kill her, then he will see no mercy from me. I promise that." At an Akatsuki hideout, Orochimaru was busy finishing one of his experiments before he stiffened and turned in time to see a masked man appear out of virtually nowhere. "Who are you?" he demanded before he pulled his sword out of his mouth and called several snakes. "I am the true leader of the Akatsuki," Obito said boldly. Orochimaru frowned at this. "I thought our leader was Pain. Oh, I see, you're using him as a figurehead." "You're correct. And there is something I would discuss with you." "Very well, but who exactly are you? Your name this time please." "Madara." Orochimaru's eyes widened. "I don't believe you. That man is supposed to be dead." Obito laughed. "Oh, Orochimaru, did you really think that you were the one to develop a means of immortality? So you know about that." "Indeed. I am also aware of the fact that you have your eyes set on one of the followers of one of our members, Rasengan Shukuyetsuri." Orochimaru frowned. "If that is the case, then why haven't you already tried to kill me, since I am plotting against the organization?" "Because I am worried that Rasen is planning on playing us all for fools. I promised him his current set of Sharingan as well as another powerful Dojutsu, but I believe he is in reality after the prize that I myself desire. It is in my best interests therefore for me to allow you to attempt to remove one of his pawns for me. However, whether you are successful or not, should you survive and flee the organization, I see no reason that we can't still privately help each other toward a mutual side goal. The destruction of the Hidden Leaf Village. Go on." It was about 4 months since Minato had deduced Obito's identity, and things were quiet at the academy. Hinata was staring intently at Naruto, trying to figure him out. He was the Yandame's son and was top of the class along with his best friend Sasuke, but he did not seem to think he was superior to everyone despite all this. He was always willing to go out of his way to help someone, just like he had helped her that day. That said, he did have a rather boisterous attitude and pulled a great deal of pranks, with Sasuke always willing to lend a hand to them, but they never did anything too cruel, with the possible exceptions of Tora being set loose into the Inuzuka compound and that memorable incident with the monument painting that let the village know that the Yondaime was whipped. And most people laughed about the jokes afterwards, even if they were the victims. But what Hinata was really trying to figure out about him were his eyes. There seemed to be a deep sorrow in them, the kind that she recognized because of her mother dying when there were complications in Hanabi's birth. But why did his eyes have that look? Sure, there were plenty of villagers who seemed to hate the boy for some reason, but that was not enough to warrant such a sense of loss. What could have happened to make Naruto's eyes like that? And it only seemed to get more complicated when she noticed that he seemed to glance at her sometimes, with the sense of loss seeming to increase, as well as something else appearing in his eyes. It took Hinata some time to place just what emotion it was that appeared whenever this had occurred. Longing. It was almost as if she had known him before, with them being at least somewhat close, but had forgotten. This conclusion only confused her more. Naruto and Sasuke were in the midst of exchanging notes, or plotting their next joke under the guise of exchanging notes, when they and everyone else in Konoha heard the anguished scream, "Good at Hurts." Naruto's sweat dropped. He recognized that voice, and there was only one thing that could make its owner cry out that loud in pain that loudly. His mom was in labor. He guessed he would have to put the masterpiece he and Sasuke were planning on hold. About 10 hours later, he was holding the newborn redeeted girl, Akari Namikaze. His parents had gotten back from the delivery room, and Kushina was more than willing to let Naruto get acquainted with his new sister. Naruto was wondering if Akari would resemble their mother as much as he resembled their father. He laughed when Minato told the story of how he had learned Kushina was in labor. Apparently he had dashed out of his office in a hurry with the secretary asking what about the paperwork, and he had answered that unless that was having babies as well, though he wouldn't exactly be surprised if that was where it all came from, then it could wait. Naruto gazed at Akari fondly. He had never expected to have a sibling. But then, last time around he lacked what he had always wanted, and this time he was able to reclaim it. A family. Chapter 7. Teams and Troubling Rumors. Today's the day. An excited Naruto told Sasuke as they headed towards the academy for their graduation exams. They were both a little nervous, but confident that they would be able to pass, even with the academy's new rule, that for graduation, not only the academy 3 jutsu would be required, but an additional jutsu of the students choosing would be required to pass and become a ninja. Minato was serious about raising the standards of the academy so that genin would be more prepared for the shinobi world. They took their seats and the written part of the test began. Of course, it was easy, even if Naruto did not specialize in this area. Next came the shuriken and kunai proficiency aspect of the test, which both Naruto and Sasuke both passed with perfect scores, nailing the bull's eyes every time. They both went back into the building, pleased with themselves thus far. One by one, each student was called into the exam room and exited with their new forehead protectors, while Naruto and Sasuke waited somewhat impatiently for their turn. Naruto gave Hinata a thumbs up as she exited the exam room wearing her forehead protector around her neck. She blushed and returned to her seat. "You're in luck, kid. It seems that she has a crush on you again this time as well. I guess some things are just meant to be," Kurama chortled. "Don't say that, you'll make me think the future is going to go to hell again," Naruto mentally replied. Kurama snorted and said, "Please. I know that it would take more than me jinxing things to stop you from changing things, hopefully for the better." "Sasuke-chiha," Iruka called. "Good luck, not that you'll need it," Naruto confidently told Sasuke, who smirked in response before entering the exam room. Sure enough, he was back out before long, wearing his forehead protector with a look of pride on his face. Naruto noted that all the rest of the rookie 9 had passed as well, even Sakura, who he had his doubts about due to the new requirements. Finally. "Naruto Namikaze," Iruka beckoned. With a confident grin, Naruto entered the exam room. "Alright then Naruto, show me a basic transformation." Without hesitation, Naruto took on the form of Minato. He was tempted to use his sexy jutsu, since that would technically pass the exam, and in a fun way, but he decided to be serious for a change. "Good, now try a substitution with that chair when I toss this book at you." As expected, Naruto performed it flawlessly. "Okay, now for your clone technique. I hope you don't mind if I use shadow clones instead of regular ones," Naruto replied as he produced 3 perfect copies of himself. "No, of course not Naruto, your father informed me of your reserves, and besides, shadow clones are more useful." Mizuki scowled at this as Naruto dispelled his clones. "I almost forgot about Mizuki. What to do about him?" Naruto wondered. "Now all you need to graduate is any other jutsu of your choosing," Iruka said. "Let's see what you've got." Naruto nodded and upturned his palm. Rasengan. With that, the technique materialized into his hand. Over the past few years, Minato and Felix had been taking an active role in Naruto's training. One of the major things they had worked on was getting rid of Naruto's glaring weakness of needing a clone's assistance to form the technique. He still needed one to form the Rasen Shuriken, but that was definitely progress. He had also learned some basic wind-style jutsu, and Felix had helped him learn to use earth element techniques. Minato and Kushina also started Naruto on Fuin Jutsu. The sealing arts proved to be extremely complex, but Naruto somehow had a natural knack for it. It was most likely due to his Uzumaki blood, as well as his father being a Fuinjutsu master. He had already learned how to store objects within seals, as well as create exploding tags. Another useful trick he learned was the finger carving seal, a jutsu that allowed the user to apply writing to any surface they chose. With a pang, Naruto recognized it as the jutsu Jiraiya had used to write his last code on Fukasaku's back before being killed by pain. Minato had decided to try teaching Naruto the Hiraishin as well, though Kushina was against it at first, declaring she had enough problems with a single yellow flash going all over the place with no warning. She relented when Minato pointed out that the way Akari was growing up, there would be a second coming of the bloody habanero. So far, Naruto was making decent progress. "That's amazing," Iruka said as he took in Naruto's Rasengan. "I never would have thought that you had already mastered your father's jutsu, Naruto." He grabbed one of the forehead protectors and tossed it to Naruto. "Congratulations on passing, Naruto. You are now a shinobi of the leaf, a title I know you will bear with pride." "Thanks Iruka-sensei," Naruto replied. He exited the room as he tied the headband around his forehead. "Looks like you passed too," Sasuke said. "Of course I did," Naruto responded with a smug look. "Was there ever any doubt?" "Well, let's go, our families are waiting for us at Ichiraku's. We wouldn't want to keep them waiting with good news, now would we?" "Look, mommy, big brother and his weird-haired friend are here," Akari declared as Naruto and Sasuke approached, earning a chuckle from everyone else present, while Sasuke developed a tick mark. "My hair is not weird, you little rascal." Sasuke retorted at the 4-year-old, only to make everyone to laugh a little harder. "Another bowl please, Tuchi-sama." Both Akari and Kushina demanded at once, holding out their empty bowls. To Tuchi's eternal delight, both of Kushina's children had inherited her seemingly endless appetite for ramen, and on a day where all 3 of them were around, he raked it in. "Coming right up." Tucci declared as he and AM quickly busied themselves. One for me too please. Naruto requested. And by one, you mean 1 dozen, right? Sasuke asked after he placed his order. Maybe. Sasuke laughed as he turned to his sibling and mother, only to be quickly smothered by a crushing hug from his mother. I can't believe you've graduated, Sasuke, you're growing up so fast. Mom, jar off me, Sasuke begged as he was once again the subject of everyone's laughter. Hey, give me that camera, Naruto. No way, Naruto responded gleefully as he avoided Sasuke after the latter broke free of his mother. This is going into the scrapbook of your embarrassment. Get back here. A short chase around the area ensued before Kushina shouted at both boys to settle down and get their ramen before it got cold. Naruto quickly finished his first bowl and Tucci already had his next one ready, having learned by then about that appetite that ran in the family. It's good that you are a ninja at last, Naruto, though I'm curious. Why aren't you wearing your headband on your head? I would have thought that you will be proud to show it off. Huh? Naruto replied, confused. What are you talking about, old-timer, I'm wearing it right wet. Sure enough, said forehead protector was missing. Where did it go? Where's my headband? Naruto asked frantically as he started to panic. Look mommy, look daddy, I'm a ninja. Akari squealed in delight as she ran around the stand, with, you guessed it, Naruto's forehead protector having somehow gone from his head to hers. Why, you little. Come back here with that. Needless to say, another chase ensued around the stand, everyone else laughing. I got a scrapbook of my own, Sasuke remarked as he snapped a picture of Naruto right behind his cackling sister, his arms outstretched and falling just short of laying hands on her. Your friend's sister is quite a handful, Itachi noted. You have no idea, Minato and Kushina both deadpanned when Naruto finally caught the said bundle of energy. With a pout, Akari relinquished his headband. Oh, by the way Naruto, once we are done eating, Minato began. Felix said that he had something for you after you graduated. Sweet, Naruto replied, already on his 4th bowl, knowing anything Felix had to offer had to be good. What did you get me? What did you get me? The excited blonde asked upon entering Felix's home. I didn't get you nothing, Felix replied. I actually made this. With that, he pulled out a sheathed katana that was about 3.5 feet in length. I hear that the Uzumakas were fairly skilled with kenjutsu, so. Awesome. Naruto declared as he swiped the weapon away and drew it. What the? Despite the sheath being 3.5 feet long, the sword itself was about a foot shorter. What gives? That is an injado. A scaled-down version of a katana, made for more speedy attacks, while retaining some of the cutting power. It's short like that because it is really the right shape for you, and it is traditional for a ninja, at least in the elder dimension with that class of fighter. Okay, but why is the sheath so long then? Surprise. A more analytical opponent will try to judge the likely amount of time it will take for their enemies to draw their blades. You'll be able to get yours free of the sheath a split second sooner than those enemies would anticipate. And on the battlefield, a split second could save your life. I like that idea. Good, because I don't have enough cash to afford any more of the chakra conducting metals I would need to lengthen the thing, not after the last time I made the mistake of treating you to Ichirakus, Felix said jokingly. If you want the blade to be longer, all you have to do is run a little wind chakra through it anyway. And that is not all the sword can do, either. With some help from your parents, I put some seals on the weapon. Any chakra-based attack that you can block with a weapon will be sealed within it for you to release against your enemies later, though it won't be able to hold the chakra for very long before it disperses. Okay then. What's the sword's name? I thought that you should give it its name, since you will be its first wielder. And I hope that it is a blade that will earn some fame and be passed down with honor. Alright, I'll see what I can come up with. And I also recreated the blade Sasuke had used last time. Mind giving it to him for me? No problem. It was about a week later when Minato had decided all the team placements. He had decided to spend a little more time actually trying to make the teams with the best matchups possible, rather than simply putting the dead last with the top boy and girl. He wanted to make teammates that would have the best chances of working together, so when deciding his son's team, he did not hesitate for a second before putting Naruto and Sasuke together. Ami knows, they were as devious as hell when they collaborated with those underhanded jokes of theirs. The third teammate was a bit of a dilemma, but Minato ultimately decided on Hinata. Not only did it seem that she and Naruto seemed to like each other, encouraging them to work together, but Minato had noticed that she had a good deal of potential. She was simply too shy and reserved to let it show, and would need some combat experience before she could become stronger. Naruto and Sasuke had the best chance of keeping her alive until then. As for their Jonin instructor, he had a strange request regarding that. He had originally intended to put Team 7 with Kakashi, but he had to admit that the one who requested to be the teacher would be a good choice as well. That person and Kakashi had already discussed it and Kakashi agreed to surrender Team 7 to them and rejoin Anbu. With a sigh of relief, Minato finished writing down the team placements before handing the folder to Iruka, who was in his office waiting for the choices. Iruka entered the academy room and noted everyone was there. He nodded to Naruto and Sasuke, a little surprised to see them both wearing swords strapped to their backs, though he had to admit that they probably did have some potential in Kinjutsu. Naruto was grinning and wondering who he would be placed with this time, seeing as he was no longer the dead last this time, so he realized his chances of being placed with Sasuke would be slim. Sasuke was hoping to be placed with Naruto himself and praying to Kami that they would not be stuck with one of the fangirls. Speaking of which, Sakura and Ino were busy fighting over the seat next to Sasuke. Please, Kami, Sasuke thought, revising his thinking. I'll take any teammates, even fangirls, just please not one of those two, or heaven forbid, both of them. Sasuke shuddered at the extremely unpleasant thought before turning to Naruto, who was in the other seat next to him, and saying in an undertone, Naruto, if I end up on a team with one of those two, or both of them, I want you to kill me immediately, without a second thought. Don't hesitate, it will be the kindest thing you could do for me. You don't even have to ask, Naruto replied jokingly, placing his hand near the hilt of his sword, which he had named Urashikata, Tempest Cutter. Sasuke had yet to name his weapon, because nothing good came to mind. You shouldn't tempt me like that, Sasuke. Just promise to do the same for me if I end up with two of my fangirls. Agreed. Alright everyone, settle down, Iruka called. I am about to tell you all your team placements. This year, the methods of selection were a little different, as the Yondaime Hokage personally decided to take more of a hand in selecting the teams to ensure the best possible results. I am about to call them out. Team 1 will be. Naruto was not paying much attention to this, just listening for the names of the rookie 9. He had pretty much given up on the idea of being placed with Sasuke, though he had some hope of being placed with Hinata. His thoughts were interrupted when Iruka called, Team 7 will be Naruto Namikaze, Hinata Hyuga and Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto's heart skipped a beat as his wildest hopes of being on a team had come true, Sasuke also breathing out a major sigh of relief. He almost did not notice Sakura and Ino trying to hang themselves in the back of the room until a panic-stricken Iruka tried to stop them. Once order had been restored, Iruka continued, your Jonin instructor will be Itachi Uchiha. This shocked both Naruto and Sasuke. After the teams had finally been finished with the announcing, the only other difference to the rookie 9 was a sobbing Sakura being placed on Kurenai's team with Kiba and Shino. Assume as Team 10 was the same as last time. Naruto wanted the whole team to eat at Ichiraku's to celebrate, but Sasuke had insisted on going different for a change. They eventually found themselves at the barbecue area that Team 10 was celebrating at. Ino was looking depressed until Sasuke came into view. Oh, Sasuke, over here, come sit here. She shouted as she kicked an unfortunate Shikamaru halfway across the stand from the seat next to her. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered, while rubbing the lump on his head. I changed my mind, we can go to Ichiraku's after all, Sasuke whispered to his two teammates, making Hinata giggle nervously. Before Naruto could agree with this stroke of luck however, Felix showed up out of nowhere. I'm sorry Naruto, but could you come with me? It's urgent. Naruto sighed. Sorry to bail on you too, but duty calls. Both Hinata and Sasuke nodded reluctantly at this. As they set off, Naruto asked what is so important. I don't know yet, but one of my old friends from the Elder Dimension showed up with news that she needs to tell everyone else in this dimension, who I have informed about the Elder Dimension. It does not seem good. Naruto nodded and did not say anything else until they reached the Hokage's office. Kushina was already there, along with a woman with bright purple hair cut just above her shoulders and intense blue eyes, and a figure that was somewhere between the future Sakura's and Ino's. She wore a plain black headband, as a simple grey kimono with a sash around the waist. The woman looked up as Felix and Naruto entered the room. Just 3 people Felix? She asked. I know that your pride has been wounded by having to resort to time travel to defeat the enemy you were sent to handle, but you should have at least a couple more people within this circle, and only the one you used to turn the clock back has all his memories. I actually have 4 in on this Alia, Felix responded. We are just going to have to go into the mindscape of this one here if you want the 4th to be included in this conversation. Alright then, she replied as she put her hand on Naruto's head, followed by Minato, Kushina and Felix. They all found themselves in the room that once held Kurama's cage with said tenant waking up to this intrusion. What's this? Kurama yawned. Another meeting in here? Let's make this quick, I was taking a nap. And who is that he asked upon catching sight of Celia. Another friend from the Elder Dimension, just like Felix, Minato responded. Perhaps we should introduce ourselves to her first. Everyone agreed to this, and after said introductions were done with, Celia nodded. Before I tell you anything about me, or why I am here, I am going to make sure that you are all trustworthy, she said as she undid her headband. Before anyone could ask what she meant, they noticed that she had a horizontal slit on her forehead that had been covered by the headband. She closed her eyes as the slit opened to reveal a third eye with a scarlet pupil. Everyone was shocked except for Felix, who had already known about this. Naruto froze as the eye's gaze fell upon him, having the strange feeling that his soul itself was being watched. The feeling passed as Celia turned away to view the others. With a nod, she closed the eye and opened her normal ones, replacing the headband. "Sorry about that," she said. "It seems that I can trust you all with my information. My name is Celia Aki. What you just saw was the Tamashii Kinsaku Mi, Soul Search Eye. As the name implies, it allows the bearer to glimpse into the character of whoever its gaze falls upon, but don't worry, I can't read your mind or access your private thoughts. It also allows me to have an understanding of any jutsu or technique I come across, though not on the same level as this dimension Sharingan, so I can't copy them without practicing them first, though I can easily figure out strengths and weaknesses of said abilities and how best to counter them. I can also spot traps with it with no problems. What I like most about this though is that I can understand any language I read with it, including the sealing arts. As you might expect, those of us with this third eye are considered Fuinjutsu masters of the highest order in the elder dimension, and we are the only ones who can make seals as complex as the one that Felix used to turn time back. In fact, I am the one who wrote his. The biggest drawback is that the eye automatically consumes chakra when it is open, and it only takes about 30 minutes for the user to be completely drained, closer to 10 if we're fighting. I see, Minato said. That is a very impressive Kekkei Genkai. It's not a Kekkei Genkai, Felix said. It was developed about half a century ago by one of our most brilliant scientists, and it is not all that difficult to manufacture. The reason it is so rare for someone to have one is because it kills about 80% of all people it is tried to be implanted in and drives most of the survivors insane. It is also supposed to be excruciatingly painful, even with sedatives, which is part of the reason for the last two potential side effects. It also erases any Kekkei Genkai the recipient may have. It was almost banned from being implanted anymore after final results, but those who acquired it proved so useful that very restricted attempts are still allowed, not a single one lightly. Currently, Celia is one of only 3 that are on active duty with it, and one of them, while not insane enough to be a danger to others or himself, did get a little crazy from the procedure. How even he saw logic in trying to plant chickens to grow eggs, I will never know. Everyone's sweat dropped at this last comment. "For actually," Celia said. "Another one was added while you were gone, but we digress. What I am about to tell you is very important. Just 3 days ago, we came across a sort of cult. Their uniform was somewhat simple, mostly black hooded robes that hid their faces. They were oppressing a small village, so we took care of it and captured one of them alive for interrogation. His mind was protected by some strong seals of course, one that even covered the pulse imprint jutsu." "What's that?" Naruto asked. "Remember when I said I viewed your memories, Naruto?" Felix asked. "That was what I used. It is a highly advanced and delicate technique. The idea is to send a pulse of electricity or lighting chakra into the subject's head to their hippocampus, the part of the brain that stores memories. It then basically creates an imprint of all that is stored there before it flows back to the user and overlaps their hippocampus, storing copies of the memories there. Simple, yet effective. If used properly, it is also capable of reawakening suppressed memories, such as the ones that still exist after time is turned back as a faint echo. The seal you used automatically did this for you." Back to the topic, Celia continued. "By the time we broke through his seals, his mind was broken beyond repair. However, we were still able to pick out a few coherent words, 3 of which seemed to be in the same context and alarmed everyone who was privy to them." She gazed at all of them intently before she continued. "They were Lord Jinchukyo Itsuri, followed soon after by Jaiubi." Felix and Naruto both paled after hearing this with Kurama growling. Minato and Kushina just looked confused. "What exactly is so bad about the Jinchukyo Itsuri part?" Kushina asked. "And the Jaiubi is long gone after what the Rikido Sennin did." Naruto and Felix both proceeded to explain that the future had gone to hell because Obito's final goal involved bringing back the Jaiubi and succeeded, albeit an incomplete version. Then Felix explained about the legends of a Jinchukyo Itsuri. He finished with the statement, if one of them really is alive and has designs on the Jaiubi, most likely planning on sealing it within himself, then not even the elder dimension would be safe if he were to succeed. He would be virtually unstoppable, if virtually can even be used in the statement. The Jaiubi nearly destroyed both of our worlds if you remember, and the Jinchukyo Atsurus were easily the most powerful human beings to ever exist, with the possible exceptions of the Rinnegan bearers, not counting a particular one you knew, Naruto. He has barely scratched the surface of its full potential. And the worst part is, most of the Elder Dimensions Council does not wish to believe the rumors of this, Celia growled. They would rather pretend nothing was wrong, because the alternative is too scary for them to bear. The most decisive action they have yet taken was sending me here to investigate the rumors and tip you off. I do admit that the rumors are rather unlikely though. It was a cult we took down after all, and they probably just viewed the Genshikui Atsurus and the Jaiubi as gods of destruction, and the one whose mind we read was in bad mental shape. Plus the Genshikui Atsurus were supposed to all be dead for centuries, and I don't think that our ancestors would have stopped hunting them until absolutely certain that the threat was gone forever. I agree, Felix said. The chance that a Genshikui Atsuri survived all this time is slim at best. However, we should still treat this situation as though the rumors are true. If there is even the slightest chance of a member of that clan getting his hands on the Jaiubi, we must make sure that it does not happen. Agreed, everyone else said at once. Chapter 8. Departure for the Waves. They left Naruto's mind and Felix turned to Celia, so you are staying until the rumors are confirmed true or false. Yes, so I will need a cover story, Hokage-sama, she said. I can probably establish you as a chunin for a while until we have a better idea of your abilities, Minato replied, and Celia nodded. By the way, Kushina began. You are the one who made the seal for the time travel scroll, right? Do you mind if I tried to figure it out? I don't intend to use it or anything, but it is an amazing piece of work and I would like to challenge myself on it. Good luck, Celia replied as Felix handed the scroll to Kushina. You may be from a clan of Fuinjutsu specialists, but I bet that this is way beyond you. It took me years to learn, even with the Tamashii Kinsaku me. The only one who could make the seal without one was the one who created it in the first place, and he was beyond a genius of Fuinjutsu. No one had been able to replicate his work after he had died nearly 4 centuries ago, not until the eye had been developed, allowing its bearers to eventually reverse engineer his seals. But if you manage to even begin to pick it apart, I will be extremely impressed. I still can't believe Felix actually had to use it though. You must be slipping. Hey, cut me some slack, it was the freaking Jaiubi I was up against, Felix replied, causing Celia to shrug in a good point kind of way. What are you talking about? Naruto asked with an evil grin. You never went up against the Jaiubi. It was Madara who beat you. I'll remember this, brat, Felix growled as Celia started laughing at him. Naruto and Felix were walking back to the place where they had left Naruto's teammates, while Felix was deep in thought. Hey, what's up, Felix? You still thinking about what we just heard? Yeah, actually. I'm thinking that we should restore Itachi's memory. Why's that? Because I know that he has the sense to not change every little thing he does not like. Not only that, but we do need some powerful allies to be sure things go better this time, ones who are in on this, particularly now, when you possibly have a member of that clan after you. I'll feel better if someone who knows what to look out for is with you. Good thinking, Naruto said before stiffening and turning around to see a familiar square rock behind him. Alright, come out. It is easy to tell that the rock you are hiding in is fake. With that, Konohamaru jumped out of the box, declaring, as expected of a fellow Kage descendant, you found me out. Huh? Naruto asked, feigning ignorance. Felix had clearly decided to bug out because he was gone. He must not have wanted anything to do with whatever Naruto had been plotting when re-meeting the younger version of himself. I am Konohamaru Sarutobi, the grandson of the Sandaime Hokage, the hero who gave his life to save the village from the Kyuubi attack. I don't care who you are, why are you following me? You are already a ninja. I want to be your apprentice, since you are the son of the Yondaime Hokage. Then, once I am strong enough, I can become Hokage myself and prove I am more than just a big man's grandkid. Yep, this was the same kid who reminded Naruto so much of himself. Naruto grinned and said, alright, I will teach you a few things, but they will be just a few pranks at first. Huh? Why? Because, you shouldn't take the fact that you are still a kid for granted, have fun with it for a while. Plus it actually will be good for learning to be a ninja, because it helps you with your creativity and trap setting in some ways, not to mention the fact that you will learn how to run very fast when escaping angry victims. Konohamaru was grinning evilly as he understood what Naruto was telling him, and Naruto clinched it when he said, besides, you want to build your own reputation, right? What's wrong with the rep of a jockster? Damn it, Naruto, what kind of godson are you? Jiraiya wept as his doom approached. He had had the misfortune to be in town at the time, and Naruto and Konohamaru were laughing their asses off, having set a booby trap that not only let the Kunoichi Naruto knew that his godfather would be spying on he was there, but also caught him in a net with some basic chakra suppressing seals. So he would not be able to get away from his punishment. Naruto was teaching his new old apprentice the value of knowing your target. The kind that enjoys making his family suffer a little, Iro-senin. Naruto cackled as Konohamaru laughed harder at the nickname. He's all yours, ladies. Ooh. Jiraiya screamed in anguish as the ticked-off women were set on him. Not so much a prank as just desserts, but entertaining all the same, Naruto told Konohamaru. Since when did you pull a prank without letting me in on it, Naruto? Sasuke asked as he came onto the scene. Is your new apprentice that much better assistance than me? Nah, I was just trying to give some one-on-one training to this little guy. That was so much fun, Naruto-sama. Konohamaru declared. Who will we prank next? I think we should first introduce you to Akari, Naruto's sister, Sasuke replied evilly. That should liven things up quite a bit around here. Oh Sasuke, Naruto said with a grin of his own as he imagined the idea of another duo of pranksters plaguing Konoha so soon after the last one had graduated. That is brilliant. You have learned much, my most faithful accomplice. Don't push it, Sasuke said as the laughing group left Jiraiya to his misery. That's not supposed to bend that way. So that's how it is, Itachi said to Felix, the former having just had his memories restored by the latter. Yes, and it is very important that you help keep Naruto and his team safe, Felix replied. Trust me, the very thought of a member of that clan still around is enough to make my blood run cold. If you do come across someone who seems to have that kind of power, run. That kind of enemy is beyond you. So what's our next step? Last time, Naruto had a mission to the Land of Waves, one that had a great impact on his life. I intend to make sure he has that one again so he can help two particular people this time around. It will also serve to give that snake in that war two less pawns to manipulate so we have fewer casualties when the war does come around. And what role will I play in that? Naruto will give you an overview of how the last mission went. Meanwhile, activate your Sharingan. I'm going to teach you the pulse imprint jutsu. He should be here any minute now, big brother is not one for being late, Sasuke said while he, Naruto and Hinata waited for their Jonin instructor. Sure enough, Itachi soon entered the room. Meet me on the roof you three, he said before doing the body flicker. Show off, Sasuke muttered as they headed for the roof. Once the three of them were sitting on the railing with Itachi standing in front of them, he stated, so as of today, we are Team 7, so the time has come for us to know each other a little better. I will start. My name is Itachi Uchiha. I like my family and the friends of my family. I dislike war and pointless fighting. My hobbies include training and embarrassing my little brother. My ultimate goal and dream is to see a lasting peace that does not require painful sacrifices to maintain for the shinobi world. Your turn, Naruto. Alright, my name is Naruto Namikaze, I like ramen of all kinds, playing jokes with my friend, and I also care a great deal for my friends and family. I dislike the time it takes for ramen to cook, and I really hate the kind of trash who put themselves over their friends and comrades, no, they're lower than trash. My hobbies also include training, as well as plotting my next major joke. My dream is to become the Hokage one day, and my goal is to usher in an era of peace to the shinobi world. A kid after my own heart, Itachi remarked. It seems as though my memories of him are accurate. Hinata was next. Well, my name is Hyuga Hinata, I like cinnamon rolls. I dislike those who are unnecessarily cruel to others. My hobbies include, well she paused, not wanting to let on that she stalked Naruto on a regular basis, trying to understand why he was hated by some of the villagers. Of course, he already knew, but she didn't know that. Taking walk she finally said. My goal and dream is to be a great ninja, strong like my father, and yet kind like my mother was. Sasuke was finally up. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I like rice balls. I dislike fangirls. My hobbies are also training, though I also enjoy assisting my friend with his humorous exploits. I also spend more than what is probably a healthy amount of time praying to Kami that our fan clubs never catch us. My dream is to become a great shinobi like my brother, and my goal is to restore the honor that my clan has lost 4 years ago, regaining the village's respect for our clan. Excellent, everyone, Itachi said. Alright, we go our separate ways for the day, but I want you all up bright and early at training ground 7, because at 6 AM, we start some survival training. And this won't be like the kind you had at the academy, because this will actually determine whether or not you remain genin or get sent back to the academy for a year. That graduation exam was more of a preliminary test than anything. This final test unfortunately has a failure rate of 66%, though I have confidence in you three. The next afternoon in the Hokage's office, Minato listed off the teams of the nameless Jonin instructors as they came forward. Team 6 failed. Minato nodded as the instructor went back to the line and Itachi stepped forward. Team 7 passed with flying colors, he proudly announced. Their teamwork seemed flawless and Naruto saw through the deception of the two bells almost immediately. They even managed to take them from me near the end. The only potential weak point of the team is Hinata, though that is only because she pulls her punches, not wanting to hurt anybody. I believe all three of them will go far. Minato nodded, having a hard time holding back his smile. Kurenai came forward. Teammate passed, but only just. The problem Lord Hokage is that Sakura girl. She was supposed to be smart, but that clearly only applies to books, and she does nothing but dote on that Sasuke all the time. She actually showed up late to the test because she did not want to get up early and she wasted time on her hair. The only reason I passed her is because Kiba and Shino have actually earned the right to be genin and I couldn't fail her without holding them back as well. Well, just continue to work with her, Kurenai, Minato said. You may have to give her some rude wake-up calls, but I am sure that she has potential in her own right. Kurenai snorted as she went back into the line, while the rest of the Jonin were sure they had their new Tora fodder team as they called it. That cat was always escaping its owner and was the bane of all genin teams. That particular mission probably pulled in more money than all other D-rank missions, with a few C ranks added to the equation combined. Team 10 passed, Asuma said proudly. With near-flawless execution of their combos. I think we have the next generation of the Inoshikacho in the bag. Good call putting them together. After the remaining teams were announced to have failed, Minato dismissed them, glad that his son and some of his closest friends had passed. While Naruto had been dreading the nightmare of going through D-rank missions again, he had to admit that it did not seem that bad this time around. For some reason, Team 8 was getting the dreaded capture Tora much more than they were. Sasuke seemed to take some vindictive pleasure in seeing one of his head fangirls covered in scratches all the time. The only really big pain they dealt with was cleaning the Hokage monument. Apparently, Konohamaru and Akari had heard about the incident in the past and were inspired, doing it almost exactly as he and Sasuke had done. The only difference was that Konohamaru had made the mistake of making the Kushina design look a little fat. He was still recovering from when she had gotten her hands on him. Whose idea was it to introduce those two again? Naruto growled as he continued to scrub at the paint-covered stone. You went along with it, Sasuke replied defensively. The D ranks aside, Team 7 was spending a lot of time training with each other, Sasuke and Naruto improving fast, the latter almost having Hiraishin down, if only he could just stop going way off course. Once, he managed to get about a mile away from where he had placed the seal and landed right on the trigger for a booby trap that Konohamaru and Akari had set up for the former's annoying tutor, Ibisu. The villagers would forever remember the amusing sight of a smelly goo-covered blonde chasing his apprentice and sister all over the village, bellowing for their blood. Going way off course aside, at least he was successful in doing the teleporting in the first place. Sasuke was practicing his fire-style techniques and taijutsu, as well as some of the more skilled maneuvers with kunai and shuriken that Itachi had already mastered. He and Naruto were also trying to help get Hinata out of her shell a little bit, with limited success. Of course there was one memorable incident where Sasuke had tried to provoke a little bit of fight from her by saying that she would get what you should never call a girler in Akimichi if you were accustomed to living painlessly if she did not lay off the cinnamon rolls. Big mistake. It had taken the Uchiha about 5 hours to regain full feeling his extremities when the normally shy Hyuga went Kushina on him. Itachi had decided to start them on their elemental affinity training early and had found out that Sasuke actually had a lightning type, with Hinata being a water type. He had already known about Sasuke's interesting affinity, but no one else but Naruto and Felix were aware of his restored memories. Hinata was already learning many decent water-style jutsus, including the water style. Water whip, which she showed great skill with, while Itachi had started trying to teach Sasuke the Chidori, which he had learned from Kakashi. So far, Sasuke was making good progress. He couldn't really do much for Naruto's wind style, but had a few of techniques for him. Needless to say, Naruto mastered them somewhat effortlessly. Other than that, Itachi had been training both Naruto and Sasuke in Kenjutsu. They were far from proficient yet, but they were advancing fast. At least they should be able to handle most low-class thugs with sword skill alone. Finally, the day had arrived for the wave mission. As Team Itachi stood in front of Minato, the Hokage stated, "It is my understanding that all three of you have made excellent progress with your training over the past few weeks. Itachi has expressed confidence in your abilities and has recommended you all for a C-rank mission." With all due respect Yondaime-sama, Iruka interjected, ignoring the death glare he was getting from Sasuke. Isn't it a little early for this, regardless of their ability? They have barely been out of the academy for a month and only have a few D ranks under their belt. I know you want to see Naruto go far, but… While it normally is early for a C rank, Iruka-san, Itachi said. It is not unheard of for greater abilities to mean getting promotions and higher ranking missions sooner than normal. I can attest to this, being a jonin at my young age. I assure you, my team is already close to, if not at low chunin level. They are ready for this. Thank you, Itachi, Minato said. As I was saying, Team 7, I am going to assign you three with the protection of an individual from the land of waves. Send him in. With that, the doors opened and a very familiar old man came into the room. Hey, this is all? Tazuna asked, taking a swig of his sake. 3 brats and a barely of age teacher as well. The girl in particular looks like she will pass out at the first sign of danger. Hinata blushed furiously. Before Tazuna even spotted movement, he had a blonde who was very annoyed at his comment against Hinata behind him, with his rather short blade at his neck. Itachi sighed and said sternly, "Naruto, please don't kill our client before our mission even begins." "Sorry Itachi-sensei," Naruto said, though he did not move Arashikata from Tazuna's neck. "I wasn't going to kill him. I just wanted to show him that if you insult a ninja or his comrades, your insurance had better be good." And with that, he was back in place with his sword sheathed, again, before Tazuna could blink. "Damn, that midget is fast," a rather pale Tazuna thought. "I almost crapped myself. I might survive this mission after all." Soon after that, the team was on the road, with Itachi and Tazuna giving a lecture to the team on the waves, just like last time, with a few obvious differences, being two different people present and all. Soon enough, they passed a familiar puddle. Naruto and Itachi locked eyes, the latter giving a nod and falling behind. As the puddle was passed, the demon brothers made their appearance from it and leapt into action. Within a moment, they had Itachi wrapped up in their chains. "One down," one of them declared as they pulled the chains tighter, dicing up Itachi. "Itachi-sensei." Hinata and Naruto, the latter acting, cried out, while Sasuke shouted, "Big brother." "4 to go," the other demon brother stated. Naruto was prepared, remembering that they had come for him last time after dealing with Kakashi. But this time, they went for a different seeming weak link in the team. Hinata. As the chain between them approached her, she just froze, just as Naruto had done last time. "Shit," he thought, dashing to her defense. He came between her and the chain, his hand going for the hilt of Arashikata. The demon brothers both smirked, confident that he wouldn't get the blade out in time, when Naruto pulled the ninjato out of the longer sheath and brought the edge down on the chain, a split second before it touched him. Arashikata easily severed the link it hit, causing both halves of the chain to pass harmlessly by him and Hinata. She was able to snap of her shock at that moment and immediately dashed at one of the brothers, who was off balance, having expected to land in a different manner. Before he knew what was happening, she had already struck him with several Jaiken strikes, knocking him senseless. The other brother had landed next to Sasuke, who wasted no time whipping his sword out and impaling the missing nin through the shoulder with it and piercing the trunk of a tree, pinning him to it. "Excellent work you three," Itachi said as he came out of hiding, ignoring the cries of "You're okay" from the team. "Sorry I scared and ditched you like that, but they only got a substitution of me," he pointed at the diced log. "I was interested to see how you three would handle this situation, which is why I held back, ready to jump in, if needed." "Lazy ass," Sasuke muttered darkly. "But there was another good reason," Itachi continued. "I wanted to be sure who their target was. While I have made many enemies, if it was me they were after, they would have just fled the moment was dead, and they had lost the element of surprise. None of you three have ever left the village, so that leaves you. Something you haven't told us, Tazuna." Said old man fidgeted, trying frantically to come up with a good cover story before finally saying, "Alright, I'll tell you everything," and with that he explained that a multi-millionaire named Gato had basically put a stranglehold on the economy of the land of waves, putting most of its citizens in poverty. Morale was low, and the man was surrounded by his thugs, which kept the people from getting to him. The bridge Tazuna was building was the only hope of having a trading route that Gato did not yet control, and Gato was sending assassins after him for this reason. Tazuna and the other citizens of the wave were unfortunately too poor to afford anything beyond a C-rank mission, which was why Tazuna had withheld the full story. "I see," Itachi said after Tazuna had finished. "Alright, we'll continue to help you." This statement shocked Tazuna, Sasuke and Hinata, though Naruto was pleased. "Even though our team is a genin team and you only paid for a C rank when this mission is now clearly a B rank at least, we are not the kind of people who abandon others who need aid. Not only that, but I have seen these three perform quite well and dispatched our two friends here easily, and they were supposed to be Chunin level. And anything they can't handle I am sure I should be able to. After all, rogue ninja are generally expensive to hire. From what I heard about Gato, he would be unwilling to buy the services of any more than he thought he needed. If we get the bridge built fast enough, before Gato realizes his first attempt has failed and has a chance to hire more skilled assassins, we may be able to complete this mission without any more ninja after us." "I'm up for it," Sasuke said. Me too," Hinata said. "Hell yeah," Naruto declared, looking at Itachi, glad that the latter could act well and was following the plan so far. "Besides, I don't think Naruto would let me hear the end of it otherwise," Itachi deadpanned while thinking about the hard part yet to come. "If we tried to return to the village, he would probably try to help you himself." That night on the road, after leaving the demon brothers tied up, they had set up camp with Itachi taking the first watch. As Naruto tossed in his bedroll, he noticed one of the others was empty and frowned. Hinata was afraid. While she understood Itachi's logic, there was a chance he was wrong and that they would have to deal with stronger foes next time. Not only that, but there was still what had happened before. "Hinata." Naruto asked as he came up to her, causing her to jump a little. Something the matter? I'm worried about the mission and Naruto-kun, she replied. What if Itachi-sensei is wrong and there will be more ninja after us? Then we can take them. We beat the demon brothers pretty easily, and even if we get more difficult foes later on, we have Itachi-sensei. That was mainly you and Sasuke who beat them. I nearly got killed because I was too scared to do anything. It happens to rookies, Hinata. I am actually impressed that you snapped out of it on time to help. But don't you see? Hinata asked, starting to cry. It was only because you were able to save me then Naruto. I might freeze again and put you and the others in danger. And I don't want to hurt people either, which is another thing that will make me hesitate when I can't afford it. I'm scared and weak and I'm not fit to be a ninja. Slap. Naruto hated to strike Hinata, but he knew from experience that sometimes a slap was needed to snap someone at their lowest back to reality, something that Hinata had ironically been the one to teach him. Shocked, she looked at him, holding her cheek. Naruto grabbed her wrist to pull her hand away before gently putting his own to the spot, gazing intensely into her eyes as she had done that time. Listen to me, Hinata. You are not weak. What happened there was only due to your inexperience and was a one-time thing that we came out of. And don't you dare think of your kindness as a weakness. Being cruel does not make one strong, nor does being kind make you weak. Itachi-sensei is a good example of this. He is one of the strongest people I know, and yet he never treats anyone harshly, not unless they deserve it, and only kills when there is absolutely no other way. You can be like this too, Hinata. I know it. Hinata gazed back into Naruto's eyes for a moment before she sniffed and said, "You're right, Naruto-kun. I will get stronger and I won't be a burden to you anymore." Naruto pulled her into an embrace and said, "You could never be a burden to me, Hinata." They enjoyed the moment before Naruto stiffened and sighed, "All right, Sasuke, come out and bring that camera with you." And the moment was ruined. Chapter 9. Blazing Crow vs Bloody Demon. They were told to be as quiet as possible on the boat, something that Naruto and Hinata were all too glad for. Sasuke was not letting them hear the end of what had happened between them the previous night and had the photos primed for blackmail. Both Naruto and Hinata were planning to secretly burn those photos at the first opportunity. Most likely when Sasuke was sleeping. Itachi had turned away from the rest of the party, facing the waters and discreetly focusing some chakra into the palm of his hand. A spark emerged from it and he smiled. "I've pretty much got it down," he thought with some satisfaction. This pulse imprint jutsu does not require much chakra, but the control is very important. I don't want to kill him by mistake. The boat pulled up to the dock and they departed. There was still some distance between them and Tizuna's home. The air somewhere else in the land of waves cracked like it was glass and two figures stepped out of the resulting rift. The first was a tall blue-skinned man with a shark-like face and a large sword wrapped in bandages strapped to his back. His attire was a set of black robes with red cloud designs. The other figure was nearly as tall, but that was the only feature that was not obscured by his attire, which was made up of black gloves, boots, and completely black robes, with the hood's shadow completely obscuring the face. "That method of travel you guys use is useful, but I thought that we weren't ready to seal the tailed beasts yet." Kisame asked the man next to him. "So why are we going after this one already?" "Lord Raisin has reason to believe that the host of the Kyuubi has been getting stronger at an alarming rate," the cloaked man replied in a deep voice without so much as a twitch. "If we were to wait to capture him, our chances of succeeding would decrease. Since this is the first time he will be out of the village, this is going to be our best chance at taking him. Besides, even if we are forced to kill him, the Kyuubi should reform by the time we need it if we move now. HMPH, I still don't see why I have to be partnered with you. You are not even a full member of the Akatsuki, you just work under one who is. Because Lord Raisin has complete confidence in my abilities and trustworthiness, which is more than your leader can say for most of your members, especially after the stunt the one called Orochimaru pulled when he possessed the body of one of my comrades and fled your organization. That was his actions alone. Not the organization as a whole." The cloaked man did not respond to this, preferring to simply walk towards their destination. "Zabuza Mamachi, demon of the bloody mist," Itachi said in a neutral tone as the swordsman stood casually on the handle of Kubikirabacho, which was embedded into the tree it had hit when the team had avoided it. "It is an honor to meet you." "The pleasure is mine, Itachi Uchiha, Blazing Crow of Konoha," Zabuza replied as Naruto, Hinata and Sasuke fell into a defensive position around Tizuna. "I see it is no wonder the demon brothers failed. They were truly insults to the demon name," Kurama snorted from within Naruto. "Of course, this fellow is much worthier of the title." "Everyone, get back," Itachi said as Zabuza jumped back down, grabbing the handle of his large sword and pulling it free as he went. "This man is far beyond any genin, even you three. Before he was even an academy student of Kurigakure, he was able to slaughter an entire year of students without any mercy. keep Tazuna safe. So you've heard about our little graduation exercise, Zabuza said as he raised one arm and cast a hand sign with the other. Hiding in the mist jutsu. Be on your guard. Itachi shouted to his team with the mist gathering thickly and obscuring Zabuza. Zabuza Mamachi is the greatest known master of the silent killing technique. If you relax for even an instant, you will be dead before you even know you slipped up. After he had said that, a massive amount of killing intent hit the team and Tazuna, causing Hinata, Sasuke and Tazuna to freeze in mortal terror, and even Naruto shivered, and they heard Zabuza's voice from somewhere within the mist. 8 points of instant death: liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, neck vein, brain, kidneys. Here, which one should I go for? I can't speak for me, Hinata the old fart, Naruto said, despite the atmosphere they were in. But you should go for Sasuke's brain, he does not use it much anyway. The shock of Naruto actually cracking a joke under the killing intent caused Sasuke and Hinata to snap out of their stupor, Sasuke having almost stabbed himself out of fear. Somehow, Naruto's relatively calm demeanor seemed to instantly calm his companions. One of the things Felix had taught Naruto is that those who you are close to are sensitive to your thoughts. If you are calm, they will be more likely to be calm, whereas if you are panicking, odds are they will be as well. An attitude, both good and bad, was infectious. I see that a genin already has the will to resist my killing intent. Let's see if you have the skills to match. Behind us. Hinata shouted, having had the presence of mind to activate her Byakugan to spot Zabuza. Indeed, Zabuza had gotten among them and was swinging his blade at Tazuna. Naruto reacted fast, coming between Zabuza and Tazuna and drawing Rashikata an instant sooner than Zabuza would have expected. He managed to block Kubikirabacho at the last possible moment. Of course, even though he had trained harshly, his body was still that of a 12-year-old, so without sage mode, he ended up being thrown back very hard against a tree by the man's brute strength. He did manage to slow the attack though, just enough for Hinata and Sasuke to get Tazuna to safety. Ooh, Zabuza said with interest. No wonder I was spotted, you have a Hyuga brat among you. It must be my lucky day, it seems you are a member of the main house. Not only that, but you have another Uchiha with a Sharingan as well. And then there's you. He turned to Naruto, who sheathed a Rashikata and made a shadow clone while glaring at Zabuza. Not only were you able to withstand my killing intent at full blast and help your teammates do the same, but you are fast, and that blade being shorter than its sheath to allow for faster drawing than an opponent would anticipate. That gives you a good shot at ending most battles quickly, and a shadow clone to boot. It is actually a shame I will have to kill you three, you would have been almost worthy of the title of ninja if you had some experience. Damn. Itachi shouted as he tried to rush to his team's aid, only to be stopped by another Zabuza. Now Itachi, don't interrupt them, let the brats play with my water clone a little. Besides, I would like to fight you a little, one-on-one. Be careful what you wish for. Fire style. Giant fireball jutsu. Itachi shouted as he launched a large inferno at Zabuza, who dodged, only for Itachi to move with blinding speed and impale him with his katana. Before Itachi could celebrate, Zabuza dissolved into water. I'm not that easy, Zabuza said as he stabbed Itachi through the heart from behind with a kunai, only for Itachi to dissolve into crows and reform beside the demon, already forming signs for his next fire-style attack. Neither am I. Naruto, be careful. Sasuke shouted, watching his friend form a Rasengan with assistance from his clone, to Zabuza's surprise. Wait, why is Naruto using a clone to form the Rasengan? I thought he did not need to do that anymore. He can form the Rasengan. Zabuza's water clone thought, intrigued. That's a high-level technique, made by the Yondaime Hokage. I see, this brat is his son, though he clearly can't use the technique without an extra set of hands, at least not yet. Still, to be able to use it at all at that age, perhaps I shouldn't kill him. I could probably make a decent amount of money if I took him alive and returned him to Konoha for a price. Don't worry, Sasuke. Naruto shouted. Water clones only have about 10% of the original's power. I should be able to handle it. You and Hinata just keep him away from the geezer. With that he dispelled his clone and charged the water clone. Pathetic, Zabuza said, not even bothering to dodge, instead swinging Kubikirabacho at Naruto, hitting him with the side and flinging him back again, the Rasengan dispersing as the boy lost his concentration. It's over for you. The water clone shouted as he dashed forward, sword raised to strike the potential cash cow unconscious, rather than kill him. Naruto recovered quickly, though not quickly enough, or so Zabuza thought. With a smirk, the blonde formed another Rasengan and charged again, causing the water clone's eyes to widen in horror. He can actually do the technique one-handed. He let me think he needed a clone to do it, so I would underestimate him. I should have expected such a trick, especially after seeing his sword. Rasengan. Naruto cried as he slammed the sphere into the water clone's unprotected torso, causing the water it was made of to fly all over the place. Then Naruto-kun did it, Hinata said, amazed. I'm not surprised, Sasuke replied. He always was a little unpredictable. Quite impressive brats you lead, Itachi, the original Zabuza said as he dodged another swipe from Itachi's katana. The blonde in particular has earned a place in my bingo book if he survives. That's assuming you survive, Zabuza, Itachi replied, dissolving into crows again, following being sliced in half by Kubikirabacho. That trick is very annoying. Zabuza growled, swinging again at the point where Itachi reformed. Itachi ducked under the blade and stabbed forward. Zabuza dodged but got kicked in the gut by a follow-up attack. Zabuza flipped to recover and cast a few hand signs. Water style. Water dragon bullet. From the water, a massive dragon rose, only to be met by another, Itachi having copied the technique with his Sharingan. Both attacks cancelled each other out. Before Zabuza could try again, he spotted Itachi casting several fast hand signs. Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu. Several small balls of fire were launched at Zabuza, who laughed. Water style. Water wall. A wall of water rose between the swordsman and the flames, causing them to be extinguished on impact, but doing nothing about the shuriken and kunai Itachi had thrown hidden in them. All of them hit Zabuza full force, all of them in painful but not fatal areas. Blasted, Zabuza growled as he backed up fast to avoid Itachi's next dash, only to slam into a tree that Itachi had hidden in a genjutsu. He was stabbed through the gut, again non-fatally, and pinned to the tree by the katana, which Itachi released and started forming hand signs. It's over for you, Itachi said as he breathed in to launch a fire-style jutsu to finish the job. Before he could, however, two senbon came from the trees and pierced through Zabuza's neck, killing him instantly. Itachi smirked. So far so good. I must thank you for giving me the chance to strike, a masked hunter nin said, jumping down from hiding. I have been tailing the man for weeks, but did not have an opportunity until now. What just happened? Hinata asked, staring with shock at the masked ninja. It seems as though our friend here decided to help finish the job for us, Itachi answered as he retrieved his katana, caught Zabuza's body as it fell, before bending down, and under the guise of checking to ensure he was dead, he used his body to conceal the head from everyone else's line of sight. He gripped the head, cast a single sign with the other hand, and said quietly, Pulse imprint jutsu. Once that was done, he slipped a note between Zabuza's head and the cloth of his headband. There, now all I have to do is hope I did not kill him by mistake. He rose and said to the hunter nin, I take it you are a hunter ninja, deployed by Kurigakure to dispose of Zabuza to prevent him from revealing any village secrets, that correct? You are indeed correct, the masked ninja replied as he picked up Zabuza's body. Now if you'll excuse me, I must dispose of the body. With that, he vanished. Itachi frowned and, acting like he was missing something, muttered, odd. Big brother? Sasuke asked tentatively, once they were on the road again. Why would a Kurigakure hunter nin be after Zabuza? I mean, why would a Kurigakure ninja of Zabuza's standing reveal village secrets? Because he became a missing nin after attempting to stage a failed coup d'etat against Yugura, the Yonde Mizukage, Itachi replied, causing Sasuke to frown. After what had happened over 4 years ago, the term coup d'etat was a sore subject for him. What confuses me is why the masked ninja would lug the body away like that when it is standard procedure to dispose of the body immediately. It's almost like shit. His eyes widened as though he was just realizing something. Once again, Naruto found himself mentally applauding Itachi's acting skills. We've been duped, haven't we? Said Blonde grumbled, his own acting ability having improved thanks to Felix insisting on it over the past 12 years, to avoid blowing their cover. What are you talking about? Tazuna asked, clearly stumped. It appears as if our mysterious assistant only pretended to kill Zabuza for us and helped him escape, Itachi growled, faking frustration as Sasuke's, Hinata's and Tazuna's eyes widened extremely fast. But, didn't you make sure he was dead, Itachi-sensei? Hinata asked fearfully. Yes, he lacked a pulse, that was for sure. But the tool used to kill him was senbon, which needs to be very precise to kill. Anyone with the skill to do so and enough extra medical knowledge can instead put their target in a near-death state, one that can fool even some of the best medic ninja. I can't believe I didn't realize sooner. So what do we do, sensei? Sasuke asked. Well, fortunately, it will take some time for Zabuza to recover, about a week, which will give us some time to prepare, now that we know who we're up against. Hopefully, that was the best ninja Gato could hire, there are not many missing nin with reputations like Zabuza's. With luck, he'll be forced to wait for Zabuza to recover before he can make his move. You all handled yourselves very well, and with a little more training for the next week, we should have a fighting chance when the time comes. First, I should cut the bandages from his mouth to let the blood flow out, and then Haku muttered to himself as he reached for Zabuza's face, a pair of surgical scissors in hand to cut said bandages. Before he could, however, Zabuza's hand snapped up to grab Haku's wrist. Enough, I'll do it myself, Zabuza said as he pulled the bandages from his mouth and moved to spit the blood from it. Awake already, I see. You sure can be brutal, Zabuza muttered as he pulled the senbon from his neck in a rough manner. Then he suffered a sense of deja vu as a burst of pain flared through his head, all the memories of the future and the different version of the past where he had fought Kakashi returning full force now that he was conscious again. Zabuza-sama, what's wrong? Haku asked as the older man clutched his head with his right hand. I've told you to be careful with pulling those out if you've gone and done something permanent to yourself. I'm fine, Haku, just give me a minute. Haku frowned and nodded, still concerned for his surrogate father. Zabuza growled as the pain receded. Haku, did Itachi do something to me before you got me out of there? Haku frowned and said, nothing that I am aware of, except when he checked to make sure you were dead. His eyes widened. But then he seemed to make sure he was hiding your head from view. Whatever he did, it seems to be a very elaborate genjutsu that implants false memories. I remember fighting the copy ninja Kakashi instead of him in the same situation, the Hyuga girl being replaced by a pink-haired brat, the blonde not nearly as competent as before, though he did still manage to pull one on me when I trapped Kakashi. Then, I remember acting the exact same way I did when I woke up before the memories came, though that can be explained by another effect of the genjutsu. But the weird thing is, it gave me memories of events after this. I don't know how he could do that unless he knew about you, because I remember fighting Kakashi again with you with me, and they included everything about you, your name, your fighting style, even your mannerisms. We lost, somehow you to that Uchiha and blonde brats, the blonde showing some kind of hidden power and me to Kakashi, and only surviving when you took a fatal blow for me. Haku's eyes widened at this. I continued to fight, only for Kakashi to disable my arms, followed by me getting backstabbed by Gato and his thugs, though I managed to murder the little midget before I died, after the blonde said a few things to me that made me cry over your death. Haku frowned and said, that is an odd genjutsu, and no doubt very potent. I'm not even done yet. After that, a few years later, some sick bastard restored us to life with a forbidden jutsu, along with several other dead people, and used us to fight a war, in which we fought against Kakashi and some of his allies again, one of them the pink hair I mentioned. After the battle, we were sealed because we couldn't even die again. And one of the weirder parts is that before the battle really got started, I asked about the blonde, and Kakashi had told us that he became a great ninja, and we were the ones who set him on the road to where he was. Zabuza rubbed his head in deep thought, causing him to feel the note Itachi slipped in his headband. Frowning, he pulled it out and opened it. He beckoned to Haku to read over his shoulder, stating shortly, it's addressed to both of us. Haku complied and read to Zabuza and Haku. You have probably already come to the conclusion that you are under a powerful genjutsu, Zabuza, but I assure you that this is not the case. In truth, if your memories have returned, that means the jutsu worked, if not, then I have some explaining to do. Haku, if Zabuza really is dead, that means I accidentally killed him, which also means I need to do some explaining to you. Those memories I mentioned are not false ones, nor are they implanted. The pulse imprint jutsu I used merely restored your memories that were suppressed. This occurred when Naruto and a man named Felix used a powerful Fuin jutsu and turned back time. Both Haku and Zabuza's eyes widened at this before narrowing as they continued, as unbelievable as this sounds, think about this. How did we know about Haku and how she fights? Haku and Zabuza snorted. Apparently Itachi, for they were sure that he was the one who wrote the letter, was unaware of Haku's true gender. If I had used the pulse imprint jutsu to view your memories, which I could have done, I would have needed much more time to come up with the details if it was a genjutsu. That should prove that the memories were already there. All I know about you two was told to me by Naruto, who remembers everything about the future. If I was trying to lure you into a trap, I could have just killed you two after Haku's stunt, so there would have been no need. More will be explained by me and narrated a place Haku and he met while she was gathering herbs. I can restore her memories as well, and we can discuss our future options. Itachi Uchiha. Zabuza groaned as he read the last of the letter. This was going to lead to a massive headache later, though not as bad as the previous one, hopefully. Well, Zabuza-sama. Haku asked. What should we do? I think that we should at least hear them out. Too many pieces fit into place to disregard this. And that is our plan for the next week, Itachi finished while they were eating their meal at Izuna's, inhaling in Naruto's case. He had just told them that Naruto and Sasuke would train together every day, with Naruto trying to finish the Hiraishin with Sasuke working on the Chidori. Itachi, Hinata and a shadow clone of Naruto would accompany Izuna to the bridge. Hinata would be Izuna's bodyguard and use her Byakugan to regularly check for danger. At the first sign of trouble, the shadow clone was to dispel, and Naruto and Sasuke would come running as fast as they could. What's the point? You are all just going to die if you fight Gato, Izuna's grandson Inari stated as he entered the room. You are better off if you just run, you'll live longer that way. And just who are you? Naruto demanded as the boy's mother, Tsunami, chided him for lacking confidence in the group protecting Tazuna. HMPH, I'm going back to my room, Inari said sullenly. There's no point talking with people who are signing their own death warrants. What's the point of fighting when you are only going to get killed? As Inari left, Tazuna said, you'll have to excuse the boy. He has never been the same since that day. That day? Itachi asked. Tazuna nodded and proceeded to explain about Inari's stepfather, Kaiza, who had been a village hero ever since he saved Inari from drowning and helped the village weather a flood. When Geto had come, Kaiza had tried to stand up to him but had only been publicly executed. Ever since, Inari had lost his faith in the world, Tazuna finished. He no longer believes that heroes exist. Yeah, well, I'll prove him wrong, Naruto said moodily as he left the house. Itachi sighed and said, better help him if he's going to train. You two stay here and hold down the fort. What took you so long? Naruto asked as Haku came into view. Itachi was leaning back against a tree. You're Naruto, yes? Haku asked. What exactly are you going to explain to me? Well, first, you should let Itachi restore you memories. Haku nodded and stepped towards Itachi, who placed his hand on the boy's head, cast a hand sign and said, this is going to hurt quite a bit, believe me, I know. It's okay, Haku said. I'm prepared. A few minutes later, Haku got up rubbing his head, saying, I guess Abusa-sama wasn't being a baby. Sorry about that. I don't exactly take much pleasure in causing a young lady such as yourself pain. Oh, about that, Haku chuckled as Naruto let an evil grin show. I'm actually a boy. Itachi paled and said, what? But you, he whipped towards Naruto and asked, and why didn't you tell me this? And missed the look on your face, Itachi-sensei. I thought you knew me. I'll remember this. Naruto and Haku laughed at Itachi's embarrassment before Haku asked, so what next? Naruto paused and said, well, there is really no reason for you to start another coup against Yugura, he is no longer Mizukage. Am I correct in guessing that you and Zabuza started it because you knew he was being controlled? Yes, and I normally would be surprised that you would know that, but after the time travel story, you probably found out a lot of things. Yeah, well, you don't need to do anything anymore, and it was Felix who had found out after doing a little research on the subject. Zabuza was rather loyal before Yugura started acting up, so it wasn't hard to deduce. The new Mizukage is not being manipulated, so there is no need to try again. So I guess Abusa-sama and I need a new goal in life. It's not like we can go back. How about helping to stop the bastards who caused this trouble in the first place? Once we make sure you two survive this, you can go about it any way you choose. Babita, you think Konoha has room for 2 more ninja? What if Naruto saves Minato and Kushina? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.